To Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia, Bills and the Sabres and the Ambers. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest buskeg hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Very good afternoon to you as we welcome you on in to Rochester's only local sports talk show. You found the sports bar, Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along however you may be doing so at 95.7 FM or AM 950 locally. We're in the free-to-download Odyssey app. You can also listen online on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And our stream is up. You can watch on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. Like, subscribe, click that little bell icon so you get notified every time we go live. We're also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. I'm Mike Danger alongside Julia Childs. How was the cake last night?
The cake? Did
the cake come out good?
It came out great. It's going to be delicious when we have it tonight.
I just learned yesterday late in the show that Gene Battaglia, the tradition is sweet. It's a sweet tradition that you started with your daughter for the executive producer's birthday. Every year you bake her a cake, and you are like the least I'm going to bake a cake guy I know. But you did it with your daughter for years.
For years, we bake a cake for the executive producer's birthday. Daughter is at college.
She's at college, so the tradition continues.
What am I going to just kind of not do it? So daughter will be home this weekend, so where we will sing tonight, the cake will be enjoyed over the weekend.
Very good.
I'm concerned about you, buddy.
I am too.
No, I because we've been doing this show for how many years, and your holiday is Thanksgiving. Your holiday.
My Super Bowl.
Right. I was just going to say that exact phrase. I'm not hearing about the prep. I'm not hearing about anything. It was actually me who said, I need a day off on Wednesday, and we're going to take a day off Wednesday. Sorry, everyone, but you were gung-ho ready to go the weekend. I'm concerned you'd actually work Thanksgiving here. You're really diving in here, bud.
We're going to be good. Preparation doesn't really change. I mean, the preparation is the same every year. The menu is at this point, it's too late to make alterations. I mean, I'm not going to throw a wild card into the mix right now when we're 1 week away. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to alter any of the recipes. I'm not going to change anything. The menu stays the same. The preparation, the routine is there. The discipline is there. So I don't think you have to worry about me. But it is a week where it's like, okay, there's a lot going on. And, when I get done here, usually what happens is I'll spend my night watching Monday Night Football, making a turkey stock, and then I'll start preparing for the next thing. And I'm going to let's get this ready to go, and let's get this ready to go, so that when it comes down to Thanksgiving, the actual game day, all I'm really worried about is making sure the birds get cooked. I said birds, two, not one, two.
Are you doing the deep fryer?
We'll smoke one on the egg, and we'll roast one in the oven.
Ooh.
So smoked turkey and roasted turkey with. I do a sage butter that I tuck underneath.
Okay, dude, then you've answered my question. I was really concerned because I've been hearing these stories like weeks in advance, and I'm like, wait a second, Thanksgiving's next Thursday. I haven't heard anything from Mike Danger.
Well, I haven't bought any ingredients yet because, I want everything to be fresh. I'm not going to, buy ingredients 2 weeks out, but the plan is always the plan. The discipline is there. The routine is there. If anything, last year I took the week off leading up to Thanksgiving, those 3 days. And what I ended up doing was, just kind of working from home and then doing the same thing anyways. It was like, well, what the hell why did I take the time off? I'm going to get it done one way or the other. And even if it means I'm up until 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, it's fine. We'll get it done. it will get done, and Thanksgiving is always epic. It's my favorite holiday. I mean, it's my Super Bowl. And on top of it all, I've got the infinity bottle working. It's just been it's been blending since I started it in the summertime.
Time out.
Yeah.
Okay, so for anybody who may not know, and I was just introduced to this phase, define the infinity bottle.
So great, man. If you're a bourbon drinker, whiskey drinker, what you do is your infinity bottle is special. It's a special vessel that means something to you that you pour your favorite whiskeys into. So it could be whatever you're into, just as long as it's something that you don't mind sharing and enjoying with those that are closest to you, those that are special to you. It was introduced to me by a friend earlier in the year, and I'd never heard of it before. I just imagine, it's an infinity bottle. I imagine it's an endless supply of whiskey. And in a way, it's an endless supply of whiskey because you keep feeding it with your favorite whiskeys over time. They blend together, and you have what is just a cool thing to share with those that are closest to you. So my brothers-in-law will come over on Thanksgiving, and while we're watching the late night, what's the late night game on Thanksgiving anyways?
Ooh.
Is it I want to say it's like Atlanta or something. Why do I think Atlanta is playing on Thanksgiving at night? Whatever that is, whatever that game is, we will sit back and we will enjoy some from the infinity bottle. What do we got?
Dolphins-Packers.
Oh, Dolphins-Packers. All right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, my brother-in-law's a Packers fan, so he'll be invested. And we will enjoy, the infinity bottle, and I'm sure we'll have a few IPAs through the course of the afternoon as well. I'm depending on the outcome of the early game, the Bears and the Lions, I might be unconscious by the time we're carving turkey. We'll see.
I don't even know why you would invest. You know how that's going to go.
I don't, though.
You do.
I'm at the stage of the week of a Bears fan where optimism is starting to creep back in. You look at don't roll your eyes at me. You Bills fans all know what it's like. You remember what it was like when you're in a drought. You're in a drought and you're in a funk and you hate everything about your team and the way it's gone, but then a little bit of optimism creeps in, and now it's Thursday. Tuesday is fire everyone day on the calendar. Every Tuesday, it's like everybody needs to go. Fire everybody, everything, because Wednesday begins acceptance. You start accepting that this is the reality that you're dealing with. By Thursday, optimism starts creeping. I'm looking, I'm like, you know what? They could beat Minnesota this weekend. They could. They played well against Green Bay, and if not for a blocked field goal, they win that game.
Minnesota's kind of tailing here a little bit.
They could beat Minnesota. Yeah. And if they beat Minnesota and they get a little confidence back, going into Detroit on a short week, it's a division opponent. Anything can happen. That's where I'm at right now. It's that point of the week.
Well, and look, we're going to talk about this a little more next week, but I'm going to phrase the question this way. For the Buffalo Bills, this postseason, yes, they haven't clinched yet, but come on. Who would be the teams if you had the rank in terms of, that's a tough opponent? We could debate Kansas City and Baltimore all day here. I will listen to both. But if you had to say, okay, Kansas City either 1, Baltimore 2, who's third? To me, it is not a division leader at this point. I don't think they're going to be a division leader whatsoever. Third to me would be the Chargers. The Chargers seem a little different. The Chargers play that brand of football that sometimes the Bills have difficulty with.
Remember last year, the Chargers with a lame duck head coach on the Peacock game? That wasn't easy for the Bills.
No, the lame duck coach got fired.
Yeah.
So you had an interim coach, right, that came in. So
that's right.
Staley got fired.
That's
I don't
right.
even remember who the interim, but that guy forced everybody to sit up straight. Here's where I'm connecting it to the Bears. How come your team doesn't have Jim Harbaugh as your head coach, dude?
Because they're cheap. That's why.
I realize this.
They're cheap. I mean, and there are a lot of teams that I think could have shown an interest in Jim Harbaugh, but the Bears just made too much sense. He used to play there. You've got a lot of Michigan alum living in Chicago that are fans of the Bears. It would have made so much sense.
He played for Ditka.
It would have made so much sense. Except there's also the part of it is, would he have come? I don't know that he would have. He probably knows this organization is cheap or this organization is dysfunctional.
He would have come and you said the right number.
Well, I don't know. Chicago winners or L.A. Chicago, L.A. Guys, if all things are equal, This is a tough one. Oof, what a conundrum. What do I do? Do I go where Justin Herbert is and an established quarterback? Who, by the way, he keeps pumping up the tires of Herbert. Herbert's in the Hall of Fame, according to Harbaugh. I mean, this guy is one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid because I was listening to Rome today. Rome all 3 hours. Also tomorrow with One Bills Live off and hearing the hip hip hooray stuff and everything. I'm like, okay, I forgot how hokey this guy Harbaugh can be.
Yeah.
But going back to my original point, just prepare Thanksgiving, eat early. If the Bears are somehow in the lead in the fourth quarter, if they somehow pull it off, I'm hoping for you, bud. But everybody, please, what's the Italian phrase? Eat? Yeah. Knock it off.
Shut up. Yeah.
Knock it off here with tweeting at Mike Danger after. He knows.
This is Gene passively, aggressively asking you to tweet me.
No, I'm not.
And torment me. And you know what? Fine. If you want to, I'm not going to say don't do it.
Did I do that at all after the Hail Mary game?
Oh, man,
did I do that at all after the block field goal?
No, it's tough. It's just brutal. It's just brutal. But like I said, it's Thursday, so I'm at the point of the week where it's like a little optimism creeps in. It's like, they could beat the Vikings. They could. They could beat the Vikings. Divisional opponent. They played better last week. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We've got a good show lined up for you this afternoon. We go to New York and talk to one of our favorites later on this afternoon. Jets Confidential. Dan Leberfeld at 425.
Where do they go from here? I guess that's the question, right? Like, who would be the ideal GM for the New York Jets? Will Woody Johnson be out of the picture, or will anything really change there for the Jets here? And where do they go from here with Aaron Rodgers? I guess that's worth exploring. Could we actually envision Rodgers sticking around in 2025, or is that done and over with? We will talk to our friend Dan Leberfeld, Jets Confidential, coming up at 425.
And joining us later this hour, he's a little bit it's a little tight with Dan Fates. The Fates household right now is on pins and needles, on edge. Baby watch on the way, but Fatesy's going to join us anyways at 325.
Do you remember those days where you get a call every day like, hey, and like, hey, what's going on? Nothing. We'll let you know. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
Baby number 3. Boy, that house. You have 2. He's beaten you by 1 now.
Oh, I'm proud of him, man. That's one hell of a family he's developing there, and something to really be proud of. So know the situation and the circumstance well, where you're just kind of waiting for that call. They're like, all right, it's go time. Grab the luggage and let's do it.
I also want to point this out. See if he owns up to it. Unless you say, Gene, you're being a misfit. When Chris Sale signed with Atlanta, I texted him like, ooh, that's a really good signing. And I'm looking back through my text. I don't have it, but he hated that signing.
Oh.
Hated it.
Really?
So I want him to come on today and say.
Cy Young, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Okay.
Look, I don't want to say he's a bad dude, but he's the guy who cut up the uniforms. And
he was with the White Sox.
Yeah.
Can you really blame him? I mean, who wouldn't at that organization? You'll kind of lose your mind a little bit. Yeah, I think that's fun. We should absolutely bring that up. It's not misfitting because you're not comparing him to the Mets. You're just calling
pointing him out.
Yeah, you're just holding him accountable for his takes. I think that's fine. Nothing wrong with holding somebody accountable to his takes. Hey, by this time tomorrow afternoon, we will be at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue. Man, I can't wait for another Friday Football Talk Live, and we're inviting you to join us from 3 until 6 as we are live with the Rochester Nighthawks. And different Nighthawks joining us throughout the course of the afternoon. We'll have Thomas McConvey and also Rylan Reese stopping by. We'll have the Nighthawks Hazy IPA on draft. You can grab a pint this Friday with us, tomorrow with us. You can grab a pint at Blue Cross Arena for all their events and also in stores and on tap. And, of course, the famous Freddy's Rock Wood Fire Pizza will be served up as well. So if you got no plans and you want to get your weekend started early, join us tomorrow afternoon, 3 until 6 at Three Heads.
It's not too soon, to make this call, Danger, because I saw they're producing it. Because I think, obviously, we start with the Nighthawk Hazy IPA with the re-release. Do I go over to the Sprucifer right after that?
Is the Sprucifer on tap tomorrow? Do we know?
It's coming off the belt. Oh. So if it's coming off the belt and it's ending up on the shelves, it would have to be on tap tomorrow.
Love the Sprucifer. Also a big fan of the Leaping Hazy IPA that they've got on tap that they've had all football season long. So, look, there's no shortage of great beers. And if you join us tomorrow, we can all raise a glass to the holidays together. It's Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue in the neighborhood of the
We
arts.
can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
And you and I don't have to run right out at 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
No, got nowhere to be. So what are we going to do? We're going to get done at 6, and we're going to hang out with all y'all, our regulars, which that's more enjoyable than anything we do, in my opinion. So I can't wait for that. That's tomorrow afternoon, 3 until 6 at 3 Heads. So there you go. The table is set. You can join us anytime at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. I went ahead and took the Browns and the points for tonight's game. I like Cleveland plus the 3.5 against the Steelers.
I think that looks kind of trappish to me. I don't look this. We'll come back tomorrow, and you will be Gene. You're kidding me. This Steeler team feels different to me. I know what you say. I've seen it over the years with Tomlin and whatnot. But the Steeler team in a race for the division that nobody expected them to be, I don't expect them to have the letdown coming off a home win over Baltimore, maybe that they've had in years past. It's a short week, and I do expect them to actually take care of business. I am not expecting this to be a close game tonight, actually, Danger.
Ooh,
no,
okay.
I'm going to say Steelers by double digits tonight.
In Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
Okay. We'll see. And, man, week 12.
Oh, no.
I know.
No.
I don't like thinking about it, but it goes by really, really fast. That's tonight to kick off your Week 12 slate. The Browns hosting the Steelers on Prime.
There was something that Tasker said yesterday that we didn't get to, and it was just kind of phrasing this because we kind of get into this pattern when we're evaluating the Bills against their next opponent. Oh, my gosh, Seattle, they can run on us. Oh, my gosh, what are the Colts going to do? Like, it's San Francisco that's coming cross-country. It's San Francisco that should be concerned. How do you defend Josh Allen? It's San Francisco with their problems. We need to kind of look at it invertly. Like, this is another opponent that when we get to next week, that we're all going to be worked up. Whatever the 49ers do or don't do against the Packers coming up, we'll convince ourselves that this is going to be a really tough opponent. Something's off with the 49ers, Danger, and I can't put my finger on it. Some are blaming the head coach. Maggie and Perloff this morning were talking about Shanahan being on the hot seat, which that seems crazy to me that you can be in the Super Bowl 1 year. Have you not seen the career arc of Shanahan? 1 year they're up, 1 year they're down. Maybe this is a down year. To me, they might just be a team that's farting around. They get in as a 7th seed. You don't want to play them, but we're all going to be paying attention to Packers against the Niners on Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm sure next week as we prepare for the Niners on the Sunday night game in primetime, that we'll talk to some of our San Francisco insiders and get a little bit more insight as to what exactly is happening there with the Niners. There are rumblings around Shanahan. And I don't know. I don't feel like that's a marriage you're going to break up. I don't think that Shanahan and John Lynch marriage is one that's gone badly for the Niners. In fact, the opposite is true. When they hired John Lynch, I don't know what anybody's prospects were, but they've been steadying for that organization. They were kind of a disaster after Harbaugh left, right? Harbaugh leaves and you're kind of left – you're left in a quagmire of mediocrity for a few years there before you get Lynch and Shanahan in. And maybe it is a down year. Maybe the injuries are catching up to them, and that's part of why they've gotten off to this slow start. I think about them losing to the Niners, and I know it's a divisional opponent, but it doesn't feel like the kind of loss that a Super Bowl contender has. It just doesn't feel like that's something that's on your resume.
But we talk about the window closing all the time. It's hilarious. Like next year, a starting NFL quarterback in year number 4 will have a cap hit of $1.1 million. But Brock Purdy will be entering his last year of the contract. So what do they do with this? You could structure it in a way, Danger, where it's not gonna hurt you, but it's been fun, but could you do better? There's a lot of stress trying to figure out where they go from here. I don't
think they're going to deviate from Purdy, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe the locker room doesn't really believe in Purdy, or Purdy's been inconsistent. But Purdy is Shanahan's guy. He knows that system, and those two, there's the marriage. Again, you've got GM, head coach, quarterback, like you have in Buffalo, like you have with many successful organizations, you have alignment between the ownership, the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback. And you have that in San Francisco, but there is something going on there. I don't know if it's a locker room chemistry thing. I don't know if it's a mismanagement or a messaging thing with Shanahan and how he treats his players. I mean, I would imagine he's a hard ass, right? Like, his old man broke RG3. Broke him. Never was the same. And, there are probably players that are wondering, is he going to break a Christian McCaffrey? Is he going to break a Deebo Samuel? Is he going to break a Brock Purdy? Is he going to break a George Kittle? I mean, these are all guys that have had one ailment or another. Maybe the Ayuk thing from the offseason still leaves a sour taste in some of the teammates in some of their mouths. And that is a loss, by the way, too. Losing Ayuk is a loss for that team. I agree with Tasker. I mean, we view that and we circle it and we're like, ooh, that's going to be a good game in primetime. That was a few months ago when we had the schedule release. And now I look at it, I'm like, yeah, you got a 500 team coming in here. I think they're going to beat Green Bay this weekend. I like the Niners to beat Green Bay in Lambeau. I think they rise up and they take care of I don't think the Packers are playing particularly good football, just having watched them last week struggle against the Bears. So I like the Niners against the Packers, but I don't like the Niners coming to Buffalo to take on the Bills.
The Purdy question is interesting. Like, what do you offer that guy if it is going to be long-term here, too? But then again, they have aging skill players, as you mentioned. Like, how many more years can you really get out of Kittle, Christian McCaffrey? Right? So that was an interesting point that Tasker brought up. Like, hey, let's call this for what it is. The Bills are playing a 500 team.
Right. You have one team right now with the winning record remaining on your schedule, and that's Detroit. And obviously that could change. The Rams are getting hot, supposedly. But I'm not necessarily overly concerned about that team either. I just think that division is down. When you saw what the Bills did to the Seahawks, and you saw the Seahawks do what they did to the Niners, and you see, like, they beat the Cardinals. Like, the Bills should own that division. They should sweep through that division on route here to the postseason. So we'll obviously spend a lot of time next week talking about Bills-Niners. But it's bye week, and we look ahead, and we look at this weekend's action, and that Niners-Packers game in the late afternoon window is going to be a fun one to watch as we prepare for next Sunday night. Let's get to Dan Fates, 13 Wham Sports, and Buffalo Plus. He'll stop by, and we'll get his thoughts on that win against Kansas City. We haven't talked to Fatesy yet about that, and look ahead to the Niners here during the Bills bye week. Dan Fates, 13 Wham Sports, next on The Fan.
Bills, Sabres, Amerks.
Welcome back to We the Hobby. You know what time it is? A little something special today. Oh, Nick.
Is that a corn?
That ain't no corn.
What?
That's a super corn!
Oh, wow! Visit us at 23 Arlington Street in Rochester.
update.
Week 12 of the NFL season beginning tonight. It's the Steelers and Browns in Cleveland. Pittsburgh head coach Mike Tomlin on playing yet another divisional game.
Obviously, this next outing is a really significant one. When you have back-to-back division games, it is significant, but also to have back-to-back division games and the second one be on a short week on the road, man, that has our attention and urgency.
We'll talk some Buffalo Bills football coming up next. Dan Bates, 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus to join us. The Hammocks get the overtime win in Laval. They're back home tomorrow night and Saturday. Hershey and Utica, the opponents. Sabres at 9-1 now on the season. If you stayed up last night, you saw a 1-0 win against the Kings. Sabres at Anaheim tomorrow night. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today, get half off the Joe's Brooklyn Pizza with 4 area locations. Gene Battaglia, the Fan, Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Three Heads Brewing tomorrow afternoon from 3 until 6. It's another Friday Football Talk Live. The Rochester Nighthawks will be in attendance. We'll be looking for you as well as Three Heads re-releases their Nighthawks Hazy IPA. You can grab a pint tomorrow. You can grab a pint at Blue Cross Arena for all their events. Find it in stores as well. Grab some delicious wood-fire pizza from Freddy's Rock Pizza. That's tomorrow afternoon, 3 to 6. Join us, Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue in the neighborhood of the arts.
Yeah, is 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus is Dan Fates joining us here in the Sports Bar. Dan, we haven't talked since the Bills defeated the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think one of the main storylines that come out of this game, does Sean McDermott from years past kick the field goal in that situation on the 4th and 2?
Yeah, I think so. And aren't we allowed to change? Isn't that a good thing? We're allowed to change as people. And I think that's been the knock, even though analytically Sean can say, well, I've been one of the more aggressive coaches in his time, and he has. But he's come a long way. It also factors into the offensive line they have. It also factors into where Josh Allen is as a top-tier quarterback. So all of that stuff plays in. I don't think you go for that with, as Sean McDermott and Josh Allen in their first or second year. All of that plays into it. I know it's easy to criticize some of his decisions over the years, and rightfully so, but I think he's understanding the team and the caliber that he has right now.
Oh, man. Number 3 on the way with Dan Fates joining us in the Sports Bar. She's got takes. I hear it. I mean, she actually has some takes as well, Dan.
She's coming along.
It's a self-awareness thing for me. I mean, I think that I don't know when exactly the light switch happened for Sean McDermott, but recognizing and even admitting, hey, we've gotten burned by Patrick Mahomes and those guys in the past when we give them too much time, knowing you got to go for the jugular in certain situations, and then also having that trust, not just in his quarterback, but I think also in Joe Brady is a huge step in the development of Sean McDermott, the head coach.
Yeah, insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. I think Josh said it best after the game. If they only kick the field goal, they get the ball back down 5, and he goes, I think they like their chances. Because Sean McDermott has seen that story. So all of that plays into it. The fact of, I think he always has faith in his defense. I think at times that's maybe been an Achilles heel because in big moments it's tough to get stops. So, again, I've been on here, I've been on Buffalo Plus, advocating that Sean McDermott is a top 10 coach, a top 5 coach in my opinion. And there's always been, I feel like, pushback because of one thing or another. But he's just been phenomenal. The call there I thought was great. He's been more aggressive, I think, than people give him credit for. All of that plays into it.
So now, Dan, this is going to make it all interesting. The fact that, hey, these games against the Patriots, the Jets, the Patriots, perhaps the Bills are playing still for the 1 seed in play. And you look at Kansas City's schedule, how would you assess the race here for the top seed in the AFC?
I don't know if they catch the Chiefs. I still think that Detroit, San Fran are tough games. I'm not as worried. Who knows what's happening at the end of the season, things like that. Yeah, the Chiefs have to play the Steelers late in the season. I think that's one of the ones that I think is a top 5 game left in the regular season. If you're looking at the whole schedule, I just don't know. Maybe the Chargers can trip up the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs they have shown cracks. They have won a lot of one-score games. Eventually, you kind of think that eventually has to run out.
And when you look ahead and think about what that postseason run could look like for a team like the Bills, depending on whether they're the 1 or the 2, and I know that after the Chiefs game, everybody's like, well, we'll probably see them again in the postseason. We tend to do that often. Do you actually think, after seeing Kansas City against the Bills, that they are a team that the Bills will find their way towards in the postseason? Or should we be paying attention to teams like the Steelers or the Chargers, potentially the Ravens as well?
I don't think the Steelers are good enough offensively, and I still think the Chiefs are the Chiefs. We were just having a conversation with LaShawn McCoy this week, or yesterday. It's on the new Buffalo Plus podcast. But the fact of the matter is that it almost feels inevitable, right, that the Chiefs will figure it out and put it together. They had 7 losses last year. They thought they couldn't go on the road. They did. They did all those things to win another Super Bowl. So I think all that stuff plays into it. So I do think that the Bills will see the Chiefs again at some point in the postseason.
Dan, let's break the seal here because we're looking ahead, not to this week, but the following week, San Francisco. And, hey, we'll get to watch them in the late afternoon window against Green Bay. Something's off there. I mean, what is it, do you think? Is it just kind of the Super Bowl hangover? Does it go something deeper? Is this a flawed team, or are they gonna figure it out too here?
No, I think they're a flawed team. I think they're a flawed team that has battled injuries. But they have the vibes to me of the Eagles last year when things all went so south so quickly, where they went to the Super Bowl, lost, they were still playing well, and then they lost, 6 games in a row. I'm at the point where I'm just, and again, these words could come back to bite me, but I go, we keep waiting to be like, well, the Niners will turn it around. The Niners will turn it around. The Niners will do all these things. Maybe this is just who the Niners are. They're just not a very good team. It wasn't that long ago that Deebo Samuel was choking out their long snapper, and we're all acting like, oh, he's a competitor. Like, I think there's real issues in that locker room between the contract stuff and all of those things that go on in the locker room, that it can be toxic. It just doesn't feel like a great vibe in San Fran. I think they're a flawed team. I think they're a good team, but I think this is who the Niners are. I think they can lose to anybody. I think they can play well enough. Obviously, getting McCaffrey back changes things and is a big problem that the Bills will have to handle. But I just don't think they're this elite team in the NFC like we have kind of penciled them in years past.
Yeah, and then when you look ahead and continue to look ahead on the schedule, the Bills wrap up their NFC West schedule with a trip to Los Angeles to take on the Rams, another team that right now seems to be playing some of their better football. But I also would caution people to be like, yeah, they're kind of a 500 team. I don't know that the Rams are, and that division might just be down, especially if Arizona's the one that ends up winning it.
Yeah, the problem there is that you have one of the elite quarterbacks in the league and one of the best head coaches in the league. So both of those things, when you pair them together, are always a dangerous match. They're getting healthier at the offensive line. They have been decimated by injuries earlier in the year, or their schedule or their record may look a whole lot different. So that to me plays into Stafford, Puka, Cooper Kupp, all those guys being healthy, offensive line getting help. And I think they're as dangerous as any team to make a deep run if they get in, that kind of thing.
Dan Fates, 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus, our guest here. Dan, one of the storylines, as is every week, the injuries. But this one's different there, the return of Matt Milano. And it's a topic that you don't know the answer, I don't know the answer, but I'm going to be fascinated to see how Sean McDermott manages this, because I don't think we can expect Matt Milano all of a sudden to be all-pro Matt Milano stepping onto the field against the 49ers on that Sunday night.
Yeah, it is. The interesting thing to me is the game shape, because he's been able to do a lot more in his recovery than he could with a broken leg. This was a pec injury. He's been around the team more. He's been involved more. Not in the building, as we like to say, joke around with Catalana and Jenna about where his endurance is and that kind of game readiness. But I don't know if it's necessarily a 50-50 split with Dorian Williams. But I expect to not necessarily see him on a pitch count like a Von Miller where he's getting 10 snaps a game. I expect it to be more than that.
What about these other injuries that we have going into the bye week here? And it comes at a very good time when you consider that there are players that haven't been put on IR but have missed time, whether you're talking about Kincaid or Coleman, certainly Spencer Brown. And then you have a couple of guys that might be able to contribute here coming off of IR, like Dwayne Carter. What about the overall injury picture here once we get through this bye week?
Yeah, knock on wood. It seems to be like a lot of those guys that were held out this week, it was just because it's an extra week knowing there was the bye. Spencer Brown, we asked him about that 2 weeks ago, about the fact of, hey, could you try a little harder now, or are you being more cautious because, if you sit out 1 week, then you get 2 weeks technically off? And he said, like, those decisions factor in. It's not just simply burn everybody out to win one game. It is looking at the big picture of things.
Dan, busy schedule as Bills bye week here. But before we let you go, it's Danger gave me clearance to ask you this question. I'm not being misfidian, but we got to hold you accountable here because you scoffed at the Braves signing Chris Sale, and it wasn't a great season. But anytime you can pick off a pitcher off of the scrap heap and all of a sudden becomes a Cy Young Award winner, I mean that was a take that was off there, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, when you work, you join a great organization like the Atlanta Braves are, good things happen. And, they've proven that they can resurrect careers. And Chris Sale has been he was, out of all the injuries we had this year, you would have absolutely penciled in Chris Sale being one of them. He wasn't, but obviously his play was incredible.
Gene Battaglia personifying what we say here in the Sports Bar all the time, Dan, that nobody cares when you're right. We only look forward to telling you when you're wrong.
I'm going back through all my old texts and some of the texts I'll get from Dan. McNeil is a baby. That might be my favorite one there. So
yeah.
Dan, best of luck with everything, man. Enjoy the rest of the bye week, and keep us posted on how everything goes here, man. We're looking forward to hearing the news, and we'll talk to you real soon, bud.
Yeah, appreciate it. Built 5 cabinets today. We're on baby watch fully. Also, Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. Mike, Jen, and I sat down, caught up with LaShawn McCoy. Phenomenal interview. Shady was great. That's up now.
Can't wait to check it out, man. Enjoy your time. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
There he is,
Thanks,
Dan
Adam.
Fates, 13 Wham Sports. Check out his work at BuffaloPlus.com. They got Shady on the pod. That's nice.
I thought he was going to be like the next kind of takesman, and then when he appeared on the pod there, I'm
McCoy?
like, yeah, that's.
He's getting, what is he getting? Time on Fox? I think he's getting Fox Sports, a little bit of time here and there.
Yeah.
There might be grooming him for something bigger. He was always, he had opinions, McCoy. He definitely had opinions. Appreciate Dan stopping by. Really busy on baby watch and sharing some thoughts here on the bye week here for the Buffalo Bills. We'll get that up and available for you wherever you get your podcast shortly if you missed it. We'll come back next. There's another New York team, not named the Jets. What they're doing now is it's borderline offensive if you're an NFL player.
Can you be a great head coach and not be an a-hole?
Oh, you mean you can only be an a-hole and a good head coach?
Right, or to some degree. There's something I'm just asking that question. Like, if I threw any name, any great head coach, maybe Andy Reid is the guy, but I'm sure there's people that are like, oh, that Andy Reid.
I mean, you could look at Andy Reid's personal life and be like, yeah, maybe he's a good head coach, but not the greatest.
Not at that. I mean, the cost of being great, I guess, is a topic worth exploring.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll get to that and more next. And don't forget, we have Dan Lieberfeld, Jets Confidential, joining us in the 4 o'clock hour. You're in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.
No matter your team, no matter your game, we talk sports. The Fan, Rochester.
We didn't touch on this. This is something happening in the Meadowlands with not the Jets, rather the Giants. And look, it's one thing to say, I mean, nobody should be surprised that they pulled the plug on Daniel Jones. His play has not been good this year. You shouldn't even be surprised that they leapfrogged Drew Lock on the depth chart and gave it to Tommy DeVito because he's Italian.
Listen, makes it watchable on Thanksgiving, buddy.
You move him down. You move Jones down to 4th on the quarterback depth chart because you don't want that injury guarantee to kick in for 2025. Now, I'm not sure what Daniel Jones did to Brian Daboll and company. And there's a line between wrapping up a player in bubble wrap and downright embarrassing him. Reports out of Giants practice today had Jones wearing the red scout team jersey, lining up at safety during the offensive install period. Hey, if you want to protect yourself from that injury guarantee, I get the business move there. That, you know, it's a cruel world in the NFL, but something like this, that's just sending a message to the rest of the league that you're flat out disrespectful to players. Embarrassing. Good luck to the next head coach. I'm sure recruiting free agents to the Giants will be a walk in the park.
Oh, no, I don't think it's anything recruiting free agents to the Giants. I think it's Daboll. Like, here, well, he's coaching for his job. No, it's over. Like, the Giants don't do this sort of thing, though. The Giants aren't going to fire Brian Daboll here with 4 or 5 weeks to go. That's just not the way they kind of roll. They remember, like, Joe Judge, they let him coach to the end, and he had a pizza party for his whole staff, and then knowing that, well, we're probably getting fired tomorrow, everybody come on over for pizza and beer. Everybody talked about how Joe Judge was a good guy. Is Brian Daboll going to have a pizza party? Like, to your point, though, you don't do that. You can't do that. He was your starting quarterback, and now you're putting him on a scout team like he's some 1AA street free agent here.
Yeah, it's one thing to wrap him up to avoid injury. It's another thing to publicly humiliate him, and I feel like that's what they're doing. So again, I don't know what that rift is between quarterback and head coach. It ain't good.
The only thing I would throw a disclaimer here is there a possibility that Jones is such a team guy? You know what, Coach? Let me help out here and be the safety here, and at least I can teach Tommy.
He doesn't have a choice, right? Like, he's got to do whatever they say, because if you don't, now you're not a team guy.
Well, I'm just saying, was this Jones's idea for him to do this and at least do something rather than sit on your ass here?
I would imagine, as a competitor, he doesn't want to be benched. He doesn't want to be on the scout team. He wants to be in there. He's healthy. He wants to be playing. And if something happens, yeah, then that injury guarantee kicks in. But this is one where the team takes precedent, and they're going to protect him in any way, shape, or form that they can. I mean, they might as well release him if you're going to put him on the scout team and have him playing safety in practice. The hell are we doing?
Danger, let's play a game. Ready? I'm going to say a name to you, and then what comes to mind? You tell me. Ready?
Okay.
Here's the name. Gino Auriemma.
Word association. First thing I think of, I mean, the GOAT, college football or college basketball head coach. Like,
yeah,
probably the best women's college basketball coach of all time.
Yeah. I mean, if you said, hey, arrogant, a-hole,
yeah, I mean,
Lego hair.
He's got those moments,
yeah,
sure.
Like, he became the all-time winningest coach last night, which is good for him. He built that program from zero. But let's be honest, there's just less talent available in the women's game right now than the men. The fact that there's never been a seed lower than a 3 to win a national championship. What a good time for Gino Auriemma to build a program. He benefited from weak competition. Not being a hater, just simply telling you facts here. But this is all going to change here. 10 to 15 years from now, the Caitlin Clark effect is going to kick in here.
So, okay, your belief is that because Caitlin Clark was kind of transformational as a player, that more talent will play at different schools, and that you will see more competition.
More girls saying, hey, basketball's cool. I want to be like Caitlin.
Yeah, I would also say that NIL might have something to do with that as well. I mean, The only players I know right now from women's college basketball, and maybe this is where it's headed.
Yeah.
I know from TikTok because they do TikToks. Just like Livy Dunn as an LSU gymnast. I know the Talinder twins that are that play for University of Miami.
Right.
That like it shouldn't be that way, but I mean that's what I know. As somebody who doesn't really watch women's college basketball, I can tell you that Dawn Staley is probably next as far as like the next coach we're going to be putting up there on that Mount Rushmore of women's college basketball coaches, because she has a lot of the same traits that Pat Summitt had and that Gino Auriemma had, and they are hard asses.
Yeah.
They are no nonsense hard asses.
You didn't even mention the hard ass of hard asses in women's
Kim
basketball.
Mulkey, yeah.
Kim Mulkey. I'm scared of Kim Mulkey.
I don't want anything to do with Kim Mulkey.
I don't think this is a women's basketball thing, though. I think it's just you are running a team, a program, whatever it is. You have to have that arrogance. You have to be kind of an a-hole. Like, name any great head coach. Nick Saban. Harbaugh.
It's a competitive thing. Like you could talk about guys that have that wired into their DNA that are just competitive degenerates. Jordan, is the guy that everybody wants to put up there. Like that guy will compete over anything, right? You see the documentary and he's playing quarters with the usher, right? The security guy. It doesn't matter. He just wants to compete. He wants to beat you. He wants to win. And I think you have to have that wired into your DNA if you're a head coach, if you want to be the greatest head coach, if you want to be the greatest player. You just have to be that competitive all the time, to the point where it's probably sickening to most average people. Like, really? Can we just take it easy? Can you take your foot off the gas for a second? And the answer is no, they cannot, because the second they do that, the second they let up, that's the second that they get taken advantage of. I love that Sean McDermott in the bye week, when he was asked what's he going to do, I'll probably spend some time with family, kick my feet up a little bit, take a breath. I love that, but I'm also in the back of my head, I'm like, a lot of competitive people would be like, I'm going to break down film.
Oh, I think he's just kind of saying that, though. Don't get him wrong. He's that stat. He's 8-0 coming off a bye.
Yeah,
it's remarkable. He's already looking at Niner film. Maybe they're not staying well into the evening. Maybe you kind of dial back the hours this week a little bit.
Yeah, I only get to spend, I get to spend an hour with my wife instead of a half an hour over a FaceTime call, like I do most of the time during the regular season. I don't know. I think guys like Auriemma and competitors like Staley and competitors like the greatest of all time, right? Like whether you're talking about LeBron or Jordan or Kobe or any of these guys, Brady, they're just wired differently, and the only thing that matters is getting the win. Hey, congratulations to Auriemma, but yeah, he's probably an arrogant prick in real life. Probably not somebody you want to hang out with or would enjoy hanging out with, and part of that is just his wiring because of who he is and how he got there. And Staley will be next. Just her longevity, she'll be next. Put her on that Mount Rushmore with Summitt and with Auriemma.
Yeah, was she early 50s, I want to say? Somewhere around there.
She can be just fine.
Yeah.
Dan Leberfeld of Jets Confidential stops by the sports bar next hour. Why? Why would we have Dan Leberfeld from Jets Confidential? Anything going on with the Jets?
No.
We'll check in on the state of the franchise with Dan here coming up in about a half an hour. We have time for your calls as well. If you want to pull up a stool at 585-866 4FAN 866-4326.
You're listening to the
Welcome back to We the Hobby. You know what time it is? A little something special today. Oh, Nick.
Is that a corn?
That ain't no corn.
What?
That's a super corn!
Oh,
wow! Visit us at 23 Arlington Street in Rochester.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Week 12 begins tonight as the Steelers and Browns in Cleveland. Pittsburgh favored by 3.5. Amerks get the overtime win in Lavelle. They're back home tomorrow night as they'll be taking on the Hershey Bears. Saturday, 5:05, the Utica Comets coming to town. The Buffalo Sabres now at 9-1 on the season. They get the 1-0 win against the Kings. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen with the shutout.
I think that was really, really good for me personally. Coming back from missing a couple of games. I feel like the team played extremely well in front of me. They blocked shots and, made it easier for me to, have a shutout. It's a team thing usually, so I think it was really good effort from the whole team.
California trip continues tomorrow night. The Sabres in Anaheim. Sports brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Check out Joe's Brooklyn Pizza with 4 area locations. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Let's go!
Mike Danger.
Yes, it's a bye week for the Buffalo Bills. Doesn't mean we can't talk Buffalo Bills. And to answer your question, Gene, yeah, I think we can be satisfied with a team that's 9-2 going into their bye in full control of the division. And at minimum, you have a pathway to the number 1 seed.
Gene Battaglia.
Bills news, looking forward, looking back. I know there would be a certain sector of Bills fans and listeners that would say this Bills team has a feel of destiny to them.
A breakaway opportunity. Here's Rusek moving in. Forehead. Scores! Lukas Rusek, the overtime game winner. Takes the shot, scores! It's made by Zucker, who gets one for the Buffalo Sabres, and it's a 1-0 lead.
I am baking a cake.
Happy birthday, executive producer. Nailed it.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
A couple things. We had a couple of reactions there. One, hey, good on the Amerks and getting the win in overtime against Lavelle. Don Stevens, just a legend on the call. And the Sabres with the perfect record for the sports bar.
9 times.
9-1.
9-1.
Yeah.
9 times.
You get the win against the Kings.
Which is not 500, by the way. Sounds like it's 500.
No, it's not. But the season ended today. They would be in the postseason, Gene. So let's just end the season now, and let's say that the Sabres are in. The other thing that got our attention, the live shot from tonight's game in Cleveland as Week 12 gets underway with the Steelers visiting the Browns. Are the elements in play? Are the elements going to be a factor?
Just a few flurries, but the reporter there's like, oh my gosh, look at the snow. Like, it's hardly anything, but the first time you see it, it's like, oh.
My Midwest friends are buried right now. My friends in Wisconsin, friends in Illinois, friends in Minnesota, they're all like, yep, here we go. Fall was fun. It's here. I think we're in the clear. I think just rain for us, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that I saw any snow in the forecast.
We can push that off for a few weeks.
I'd be all right with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Dan Leberfeld, Jets Confidential, going to stop by the sports bar here in about 20 minutes or so. I don't know. Why would we have a Jets guy on with us this week? Anything going on with that organization? We'll get his temperature on everything happening with the Bills' division rival here with them firing their GM, Joe Douglas, earlier this week. Also saw today that Travis Hunter is going to, definitely declare for 2025, definitely wants to play both sides of the ball in the NFL.
Which I've seen mock drafts. He would be the top guy going overall, number 1 overall. I think by the time we get to April, we'll have some quarterback that everybody will want, and the need for quarterback, and teams jockeying for that quarterback. And maybe it's Shedeur Sanders. Maybe he goes number 1 overall. But the idea that we could actually have a two-way player in the NFL?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think it's funny. For as much as we talk about how you can't whiff, how much a quarterback in the first round or a quarterback in the draft can make your franchise, you can't whiff on a first-round quarterback. And we were just talking about the Giants. They're a great example of how much it can set you back if you whiff on your first-round quarterback. We don't know yet. The jury's still out on Anthony Richardson, right? The Colts, kind of pulling back and now letting him run free again. And it's too early to tell with Drake May. We certainly feel good about Jaden Daniels. Caleb Williams has had his ups and his downs through his rookie season.
It didn't take the Bears too long to be like, sorry, Justin Fields. Now, credit them. They were able to get themselves into a position thanks to Carolina to get your guy.
Right, but if it ends up being that Bryce Young isn't the guy, and it appears like Bryce Young isn't the guy, again, Carolina is going to be set back probably another 3-5 years because they got it wrong. So I guess it's a long way of saying maybe the idea of spending the first overall pick on a quarterback that you don't necessarily believe in isn't always going to be the right move. And Caleb Williams could be that cautionary tale depending on how the rest of the season looks in Chicago.
I'm going to give you the quote, and you take a guess who, this is reacting to a story of from this week, who said it. Whoever leaked that is a real piece of S.
That's Woody Johnson.
No.
Oh, come on.
No, I would have thought that.
What if the person who said that is actually the person who leaked it? Was it Robert Saleh?
Nope. Wrong sport.
Oh.
Joel Embiid.
Joel
Embiid getting called out by Tyrese Maxey, and then we're learning, oh my gosh, this guy doesn't show up to meetings.
Late.
Like, okay, is it really a leg, or are you just, this is who you are here? Yeah. Whoever, Philadelphia acquirer, whoever leaked that is a real piece of, can't say the word.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll say this. And if you're Joel Embiid, or if you're somebody who you are in a position of power, try to remain humble and realize that your time is just as valuable as everybody else's. It drives me nuts. I mean, look, I'm not speaking out of school here. Many of us have wives or girlfriends who will take their own sweet time in getting ready, and you spend a good chunk of your life just kind of standing around waiting for them. Like, well, we're ready to go. Whenever you're ready, maybe I'll just go wait in the car.
That's different.
It is different.
That's different.
That is different. But if you need to be somewhere at a certain time, then be there at that time. If you have a meeting at a specific time, even if you're 15 minutes late, drives me nuts. Like, your time is more valuable than mine. Hey, if you're going to be late, move the meeting or tell me I need 5 minutes. I can use that 5 minutes or those 15 minutes, and I could be doing something else. And I do think that there is a level of disrespect that comes with being late for those meetings, the way we reportedly are hearing Embiid being late.
So why is it okay for in a doctor's office? Like, hey, your appointment is at 9:30, and
it's not.
No,
I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I really have a problem with that. Like, you need me here at a certain time, I will be there at a certain time. It was the Belichick rule. If you're 5 minutes,
that was Tom Coughlin.
If you're on time, you should actually be 5 minutes early. Right.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. And I guess somebody taught me this in sales too. Like, how long do you wait? Because your time is valuable. I myself have a 20-minute rule. Like, if somebody's like, hey, yeah, let's stop on by Gene, and if that person is late, or somebody else like, hey, he's busy or she's busy, I'll come back another time. 20 minutes is where it's at. Somebody making you hang on a Zoom call today, Danger?
I have my clock in my car actually set 4 minutes fast, so that, like, I'm always thinking that I'm always going to be 5 minutes earlier than what my clock says. So if I need to be somewhere at 10 a.m., if I'm pulling up at 10 a.m. on my clock, it's actually 5 minutes to 10, and I'm early.
It's one thing if you're that type of personality, right? Or your spouse is that way. You're the leader of the team. Whether you have the C or not, you're the franchise player in Embiid. You're the guy getting paid all that money. Do you want to win or not? Like, you need to get other guys invested. You can't be that. I guess if you're Dennis Rodman way back in the day, fine, whatever, but he wasn't the leader on that team.
It's funny though, man. I mean, like, the guys that are the best players on the team don't necessarily make the best leaders on the team, right? Like, when Jack was with the Sabres and he had the C on his jersey, I'm like, I don't feel like a captain. I mean, he's really good. He's a really good player. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if I view him as a leader. And, if he was a leader, you'd be able to make those around you that much better instead of kind of like, well, it's just the way it is. I'm kind of losing the love for the game, and everything, all the body language and everything that was going on, I was like, nah, doesn't feel like that's a leader. Embiid, while he might be the best player on that team, maybe does not have that leadership quality that you need out of a leader. Maybe Maxey does have it. Maybe Maxey is the guy that is emerging as the leader of that organization or that team, that roster. In Buffalo, you've got this now perfect storm with Josh Allen where this year we all went into the season saying the same thing, like, hey, this is Josh Allen's team. This is the year where Josh can be more vocal. This is the year where Josh can truly ascend and be the leader that you need your franchise quarterback to be. And through 12 weeks of the season, it's like, yeah, he has done that. He has been everything that you need your franchise quarterback to be. He has been that leader. Sometimes it takes time, and you need to develop into that role. But Embiid's had enough time. He's not a leader. And if you're a Sixers fan, if you're a fan of the NBA, I'm curious as to whether or not you're just tired of this guy's act. If you're willing to forgive and forget, or if you see how they've started this season, if you're a Sixers fan, you're just like, you know what, get rid of him, man. He's always hurt. He doesn't want to play him back-to-back nights. He shows up late. He's a bad team guy. Get him out of here.
We have Dan Leberfeld from Jets Confidential coming up in a little bit. This is funny. Could we actually have a second New York team benching their quarterback? Maybe not yet, but Connor Hughes of SNY is reporting that it's his understanding that the Jets organization prefers a change at quarterback following this season.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Right. Well, if that's the case, I don't know. What's the plan? I mean, that drafting? Are you going to go free agents? Gardner Minshew going to be the starting quarterback for the Jets next year? Because
how about Dak Prescott because Dallas brings in the Sanders family?
Right. Would you be excited about bringing in another veteran quarterback who's coming off an injury? And good luck, man. I mean, it really is that important to find your franchise guy. Finding your franchise guy in the draft and having that control for the first 5 years and building around him, it's everything. It is everything. And the Bills are the template. Follow what the Bills did, and chances are you'll end up a successful franchise. But it's easier said than done, apparently, for some of these organizations. Not a surprise there. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been good. He just hasn't been good. And I think they've done everything that he's asked them to do, and it still isn't paying off. He's if he wants to play next year, I would like to know the team that wants him on their roster. I don't know that there's one out there.
Because you couldn't bring him in to compete, right? He's not going to be a bridge quarterback. He is your quarterback. He's not signing up for that.
He's not a backup. He's never going to back anybody up. He's your franchise quarterback, and you have to pay him appropriately.
But you couldn't even, all right, we're going to draft somebody in the second round and go with Aaron Rodgers. No. He's not going to want any threat of anybody taking time from him.
Right. Atlanta's been weird this year, right? Like, for as much as we talked about Cousins and Penix and the whole thing with those two.
Cousins hasn't been good recently.
Yeah, and I'm worried that he's going to start falling apart. And it's almost as if they knew, hey, this guy still has it, but does he have it for a 17-game schedule? We better have somebody ready to go.
So a team that is squarely farting around, that would be unique. Let's put in the rookie quarterback and see where he goes from here. I mean, if the Falcons are being honest with themselves, they're not going to get very far in the postseason. So why not? Why not go to Penix?
They're going to win that division. Like, the Falcons should win that division. And they win the division with not one but two starting quarterbacks through the course of the season here, with if you assume that at some point Cousins, either he continues to play poorly and they give way to Penix, or there's an injury there because he's just breaking down at the advanced stage. It'll be interesting. Well, that's another thing we can discuss with Dan Leberfeld of Jets Confidential, who's going to stop by the sports bar here in about 10 minutes.
It's funny. You would think, oh, no, it's going to be Tampa Bay. No, they're 4-6. I mean, they've been entertaining, but they're not winning, really.
Right.
They get the Giants, by the way.
A word that Mike Evans could be returning for the Buccaneers. That's news to Baker Mayfield's ears. And for Mike Evans, I'm not going to say that personal record overcomes team success, but you want to get that 1,000-yard receiving season to keep that streak alive. You got to get on the field, pal.
Yeah.
You got to get on the field, and you got to get fed. So I would imagine that when he does get back on the field, you'll see a heavy dose of Mayfield to Evans in that Tampa Bay offense moving forward. What else do we have going on this afternoon, Gino?
Well, this is was going to bring this up in shots, but could Major League Baseball finally be ditching the blackouts and have some sort of direct consumer model? This is all well and good, and I can go into all these details, but baseball is so far behind when it comes to television rights here and everything else, when it comes to streaming. In order for that to happen, though, Rob Manfred has to convince these teams that own their own network to come up with a different model. Meaning the Red Sox with Nesson, the Dodgers own the station out there, and the granddaddy of them all, the founder, the Yes Network.
Yes, Marquee.
It's not happening.
Masson for the Orioles.
Right.
This
is not happening, right? You're the Yankees. You saw the future. You capitalized on it. What a mess. It would be as if, trying to draw the analogy here, the NFL has always said, okay, these are the rights, and there you go. But what if, like, the Cowboys actually had their own network? Like, they would be the team that could pull something like that off.
Sure. It would be, if it were to happen, you'd have 31 other owners pissed off at you, right? Like, the thing about the NFL is NFL owners, that's a cult. They're a club. They're not, you can't break them. They are unified.
They are unified. And I hope this always kind of stays this way, because the NFL would be a boring place if we had corporations owning these teams. It happens in all sports, right? Like, oh, hey, yeah, Miller Coors owns the, whatever. No, it's much better when you have an individual owner that you can, as a fan, in your mind, hold accountable when your team isn't doing things right.
Yeah. Yeah, baseball, I agree that baseball has an issue as far as like being able to find their product when you want to find a good game. If you're a Yankee fan, you don't have that issue. There were a couple times this year where I'm like, where's the game? Where is it? Oh, it's on Prime. Oh, it's on TBS. Oh, okay. But for the most part, if you're a Yankee fan, you know exactly where you're going to go. If you're a Mets fan, you know exactly where you're going to go. But the rest of the league, not so much. So they need to figure out how to kind of unify and get everybody on the same page in getting their product out there. Is there any update on Soto? Soto in LA, right?
There isn't, but we do have an update here on the Rays. So the Rays have this big old problem, right? So we'll learn if the Rays are going to be staying December 17th. This is the date to circle, as they're going to vote on the county down there to pass these bonds. And if that doesn't happen, then you're going to have a team, 4 years in limbo? And it also, like, are we actually going to spend the money to fix the roof? They haven't even approved that yet, Danger. So Rob Manfred did what he likes to do. Did he sit down with somebody from the outside? No, he did this on MLB.com. Okay, and I could read you the quote here. I'll pull this up. And, I mean, you could predict tell me what you think Rob Manfred said here about the Tampa Bay situation, Mike Danger. See how close you get.
Very unfortunate. We're committed to doing everything we can to keep professional baseball in the Tampa Bay area.
Correct. We're committed to the fans in Tampa Bay. I think that all that's happened in the market, we're focused on the franchise in Tampa Bay right now.
Yep.
Well, the right now thing is kind of a tell there.
Right.
Yeah.
A month from now could be different. But right now, yes. Good times. Good times. Major League Baseball. Who won Cy Young? It was Sale and...
It was Sale and Skubal.
Skubal.
Yeah.
Okay. Got to keep updated here on these postseason awards.
Right. It's like tonight, like the MVPs go out tonight. Oh, okay. Like, you could say...
It should be Lindor.
It should be, but it'll be Ohtani.
Should be Lindor. You have a legit gripe if you're a Mets fan. If you're a Lindor fan, you have a legit gripe. Should be Lindor. But you're right. It'll probably be Ohtani.
It'll be Ohtani, and it'll be Judge.
Yeah.
And, maybe Soto will split the vote. No. No, won't. Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be exciting for the Royals for years to come.
For sure. They've got him locked down, too, right? Mm-hmm. They locked him down last year. Dan Leberfeld, Jets Confidential. We go to the Meadowlands next and check in on the New York Jets. We have time for your calls as well. 866-4326 if you want to pull up a stool. 585-866-4FAN.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. update.
Week 12 begins tonight. The Steelers and Browns in Cleveland. Some light flurries right there right now. Pittsburgh favored by 3.5. Mike Tomlin knowing the importance of this stretch.
Obviously, this next outing is a really significant one. When you have back-to-back division games, it is significant, but also to have back-to-back division games and the second one be on a short week on the road, man, that has our attention and urgency.
Dan Leberfeld, Jets Confidential, joining us next year in the Sports Bar. Rochester Americans get the 2 points up in Quebec against Laval. They're back home tomorrow night against Hershey, Saturday against Utica. The Sabres now at 9-1 on the season. Buffalo winning against the Kings late last night, 1-0. They're in Anaheim tomorrow. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today, save half off the Joe's Brooklyn Pizza with 4 area locations. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Well, another eventful week with the New York Jets. We bring in Dan Leberfeld of Jets Confidential. The Jets moving on from their GM, Joe Douglas, which really isn't a surprise, Dan, when you consider that he didn't have his contract renewed and he was probably on borrowed time anyways. But this is also from an owner who, before the season started, thought that this was the best roster that they've accumulated in the last 25 years. So, you know, what do you make of all of this, and what's next for this team here as they struggle through the rest of the season?
Well, I think what's next for this team is a bonding session, a trip to Joe's Brooklyn Pizza. I think that could really bring them together.
Right. See, Dan, like, you know, Joe figured out Rochester is the land of enchantment, and he moved from the city up here. So, and someday you will too.
Yes, I love it. But seriously, answering your question, the last 2 games were absolute debacles on defense. When you look at the fact that Kyler Murray looked like Peyton Manning against them, just throwing dime after dime to wide open receivers up and down the field. And then against the Indianapolis Colts, they made Anthony Richardson look like Tom Brady, just throwing a wide open receivers. And the last quarter of the game, the Jets had the lead. And you talk about a quarterback, Anthony Richardson, who had been benched 2 weeks earlier, entered the game with a 44.4 completion percentage, which I've never seen on the NFL level. And he takes the Colts on 2 70-yard drives to win the game, TD drives in the fourth quarter. So when you see outings like that, something has to give, and the owner decided to fire the GM. And like you said, his contract is up after the year, and there's no way he was going to come back.
So, Dan, we'll get to Rodgers and where the Jets go from here for a second, but you brought up an interesting point here because, our perspective up here in Western New York, the Jets, physical defense, that's a team that gives the Bills problems, and that defense, and Robert Saleh, what happened to the Jets' defense, Dan, or was this just a team that many from the outside just kind of overvalued on that side of the ball?
They absolutely overvalue people on the outside, the Jets defense entering this season. They were bad against the run last year, and they're bad against the run this year. It's a scheme that needs to be changed that Robert Saleh installed. It's too static, basically lining up the same way down after down. And if you're a good offensive coordinator and you're a good quarterback, you don't even need to be a good quarterback as long as your play call is dialing up great plays, because Anthony Richardson wasn't exactly lighting it up before the Jet game. You can find holes in this defense. And the other problem is during the week that the trade deadline was, I know the Bills didn't trade for these players, but Bills' run defense was not good. They go out and get Jefferson, and they go out and get Jordan
Phillips,
because they say we got to fix this. Jets did nothing at the trade deadline or even bringing in players, and their defense was broken. So I don't know if the owner tied Joe Douglas's hands, but there was just too much dragging of the feet. And also, they never, under Douglas and Saleh, who was fired before Douglas, they never benched guys. They never cut guys when things weren't going well. It was a passive approach that I never understood.
Well, it feels like the source of dysfunction, like it is with a lot of organizations, starts at the top. And Woody Johnson, if you believe the reports that he was involved in trying to get Aaron Rodgers benched after the Broncos loss. I mean, does anything change with the Jets as long as Woody is controlling things? Because I know when his brother was running things while he was at the UK, things at least felt like they maybe were getting a little bit better. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. What happens here with Jets ownership in the future?
Yeah, Christopher Johnson, who was filling in for his brother during Woody Johnson's time as the ambassador to the United Kingdom, was more of a hands-off owner. Now, you could say the results weren't great, but he hired Joe Douglas. So when Joe Douglas came in, and Joe Douglas was a highly regarded GM candidate who won rings in Baltimore, and he won a ring in in Philadelphia. So he's a guy that was on a lot of teams' radar as a GM candidate. So he comes in, he thinks he's going to be able to run things in an unfettered fashion. And then a couple of years in, Trump loses, and Woody Johnson comes back from the United Kingdom and takes over and is very, very hands-on. And Joe Douglas did not seem like a happy camper the last couple of years working under Woody Johnson. So I think he wanted to get out of here, and Woody made it happen sooner than later. So I think if Woody goes back to an ambassadorship, I think, you look at GM or coaching candidates, I think it would be a different landscape than if Woody is the owner. The best case scenario is the way the Bills have it now, the way the Chiefs have it now, the way the Ravens have it now. Good ownership that hires people they trust to run the football operation, whether it's a head coach or GM, or like in Denver, where the Walmart family hired Sean Payton and they got out of the way. That's the only Jets' only hope for success is for Woody, Christopher, whoever, hire a good GM, hire a good coach, or hire someone who'll handle both and get out of the way.
Dan, it seems like a major rebuild when you kind of consider it's not easy to find a quarterback here. Do you see a scenario in which Aaron Rodgers is on the Jets in 2025?
Well, I see. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I don't see Aaron Rodgers as the problem. I really don't. I think the problem is he's not the Aaron Rodgers of his heyday, so he can't put a team on his back like Josh Allen can at times with the Bills, where there could be weaknesses on the team, but he's so good that he can help the team overcome those weaknesses. Aaron Rodgers is not that quarterback anymore. He used to be in Green Bay. However, you could win with Aaron Rodgers if you have a good defense, which the Jets don't. If you have a good offensive line, which the Jets don't. So to me, if you look at Aaron Rodgers, if they have the right supporting cast around him, I think they can win with him. So maybe whoever the GM is, whoever the head coach is, says, you know what? We're going to bring Aaron Rodgers back another year, and we're going to roll with him again because we don't think he was the problem. He's made a lot of good plays this year under circumstances where the play breaks down and, he dumps the ball to somebody and turns nothing into something. So, once again, not the quarterback he was in his halcyon days, but a guy you can win with the right supporting cast. So I'm not totally going to sit here and say they're going to move on from him. It all depends on who they hire.
What kind of guy do you think they're going to hire? Because I think about the way this is all played out very publicly, and if you're a GM, I know that there are only 32 of these jobs, Dan, and that somebody will eventually be in there, but what kind of person are you looking at for a GM or a head coaching job with the Jets? Are you looking for the veteran who's been there before, somebody like a Rex Ryan, or are you looking for somebody that's new and upcoming and that just wants their shot to be a head coach in the NFL, or a GM, a first-time GM?
No, they can't go first time this time, because they've gone down that road too many times with the hot shot coordinator on one side of the ball, and it hasn't worked. So they need to get somebody who perhaps is an older coach, who has some head coaching experience before, and is an alpha dog who's willing to bench people. I mean, they just will not bench people. I mean, they won't cut people or bench people. And that goes back to Douglas, Saleh, and now you can fast forward to the new GM. Well, Phil Savage hasn't done anything yet, but Jeff Ulbrich, when he was with Douglas the last few weeks, they've had all these problems, and they won't make lineup changes. So they need someone who's willing to bench guys or cut guys if things aren't going well, and they need they need experience. They can't go with the young hotshot coordinator, let's say like Shane Steichen, who is going to call plays on one side of the ball with his head buried in his play sheet and not take a 30,000-foot view on what's going on in the game. They can't do that this time. They need an alpha dog leader who's going to run the whole team and make the tough decisions that has to be made and lead the Jets, out of the desert. So that's the kind of guy they need, whether it's as the GM or the head coach. A name that comes up is Monken out of Baltimore, the offensive coordinator. Keep in mind, he was a head coach, albeit on the college level at Southern Mississippi, but he was a head coach. They need someone who's been a head coach before. They don't need a young coordinator with his face buried in his play sheet.
Dan, you know who you're describing. You know he's putting his hand up in the air. Would you sign up? Is there anything legit? Rex Ryan 2.0 with the Jets.
Well, he's another guy that, when did he ever bench people? No, that's not the way to go. With all due respect to Rex, they need a new approach. And the problem with Rex is maybe he's finally learned his lesson, but Rex did not learn his lesson going from the Jets to Buffalo, where he needed to change his staff, with all due respect to the men on that staff. But he brought his merry men to Buffalo and changed nothing. So maybe if Rex has learned his lesson and is willing to change things from his old approach, maybe you consider it, but probably not the way to go as far as where the Jets need to go from here.
What about Gruden?
Well, I would consider Gruden if you let him nowhere near any player personnel decisions. Rex, when you look at John Gruden, a good coach, a good play caller, horrendous player personnel guy, horrendous. Just look at the Raiders draft. So if you bring in John Gruden and he is just focusing on coaching the team, maybe, but you can't let him anywhere near player personnel decisions with draft picks like Alex Leatherwood.
The Sanders family. You're going to be in a good position to trade up for Shedeur if you want. Is that even worth a consideration, Dan?
Well, I wouldn't do it because I think that Aaron Rodgers should be their quarterback next year. And you look at there's an agenda against Aaron Rodgers in the media. I've covered all these games in person, up close and personal, except the London game. I didn't go. I don't see him as the problem. I really don't. You look at the Arizona game, he was leading the team down the field. They were kicking field goals, and their defense was so bad that Arizona scored a touchdown every time, and they fell way behind. But he was leading them down the field. In the Colts game, what do you want him to do? He gives them a lead twice in the fourth quarter, and they let a quarterback who was playing terribly go 70 yards on 2 TD drives, and they lose the game. So how is that Aaron Rodgers' fault? Once again, he deserves some of the blame, but he is the least of their problems as far as I'm concerned. I think
he's the
Aaron
20.
Rodgers
Dan,
hatred.
Respectfully, I mean, look, yes, to your point that certainly there are some in the media that push back for various reasons that are not football related. Okay, but he is the 27th ranked quarterback when you're talking about QBR. But my point is, he's 41. You have an opportunity to look to the future here and Aaron Rodgers is not going to stick around here for a year, I would think, if you're going to spend a first-round pick on a quarterback, as probably you should.
Well, I think as one of his last years, it's a little different than when they picked Jordan Love in Green Bay, where Aaron was coming off 2 MVP awards, and he felt he had a lot of good football left. I don't think Aaron is sitting here at soon to be 41 thinking I'm going to play another 4 years. So I could see a scenario if they pick somebody where the player sits, which most rookie quarterbacks should do, and Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, or they think that Jordan Travis, who they picked last year out of Florida State, could be the heir apparent coming off that horrific broken leg his last year with the Seminoles, and he probably needs a year to sit, still recovering from that really bad broken leg, and he's the quarterback of the future. And if Woody Johnson's becoming impatient at 77 years old because he wants a winner, you think he's going to win with a rookie quarterback next year? I mean, at Shedeur Sanders, who knows if he's the answer. Most of these rookies really struggle as rookies, and maybe Jaden Daniels is coming back to the pack a little bit now. Who knows? And, Drake May is okay. Caleb Williams struggling. You think a 78-year-old Woody Johnson wants to go the rookie quarterback next year?
What about the other stars on this team? Guys that Joe Douglas was responsible for bringing in. Guys, I mean, you're not far removed with the Jets from having the offensive and defensive rookies of the year on the same roster in the same season. Are they salvageable here? Do they still show signs of life, or are they broken down and beaten down just because of where the Jets are as a team right now?
That's a great question, because you look in their eyes when you look at Sauce Gardner or you look at Garrett Wilson, and what's going on here and what has gone on for most of their careers, their young careers with the Jets, has been a lot of losing and a lot of dysfunction, and you could see it's taking a little life out of them, so to speak. So, yeah, you got to be worried about those guys a little bit. Sauce Gardner is not having a good year. Had a really bad game against the Colts last week. Wasn't great in Arizona. Maybe they're asking to play too much zone defense when he's a man-to-man guy. And Garrett Wilson is playing well, but, you just look in their eyes and see what this is doing to him. A few games ago, they lost in Breece Hall, who's actually having a good year, the running back. He had a towel over his head in the locker room after the game. He was so dismayed by what happened. So, yeah, you got to be careful with young players. When things are too dysfunctional, there's too much losing going on, it could irreparably damage them. And when you look at what's going on here, I'll tell you one. I'll give you an anecdote from the Bills, why Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane are so good at their jobs. You guys remember very well when Keon Coleman was drafted, he was kind of being a little bit too flamboyant, if you know what I'm saying. With the first press conference and just some of the stuff he was doing. Somebody talked to him. You guys can fill in the blanks here more than I could, because I'm not in Buffalo and Rochester, and he seemed to pull back. Would you agree with that?
Well, he got sat down the Monday night against Jacksonville. Like, something for being late, and all McDermott would said is he's going to learn from it or whatever. But hey, like, did that stuff ever go on with the Jets? I mean, that's the one example.
Yeah, he didn't start against Jacksonville.
No, they don't bench anybody here.
Yeah.
So here's my point. I noticed, and maybe I'm reading into too much, that when Keon's a great kid, this isn't about him, but early on, he was too much of a showman for a rookie. And I know that, I don't know which player we're talking about here, but a couple of years ago, Coach McDermott pulled out one of my favorite quotes from Bill Parcells about don't putting him in Canton just yet. Do you remember who he was talking about? It wasn't Keon, because it was a couple of years ago. But he basically pulled out that Parcells quote when someone in the media asked him about how well a rookie was doing. And the coach said something, let's not put him in the Hall of Fame yet. We could look up who he was talking about, but Keon Coleman, someone reeled him back in, and his focus improved, and he wasn't doing the look at me stuff, and he became more of a focused young man. When you look at Sauce Gardner, the hype around this player right out of the gate was way out of control with the Jets, and you don't handle young players that way. The same way with Sauce Gardner, and that's something that needs to change. Whoever the next coach is, whoever the next GM is, do not put young players in Canton. I know I used that quote way too much for Parcells, but there was a method to the Big Tuna's madness. You do not hype rookies.
Any guesses which player 3 years ago Sean McDermott was referring to, Dan was talking about?
3 years ago?
3 years ago as a rookie. Starter today on the team.
Was it Rousseau?
Spencer Brown.
Oh, Spencer Brown.
Spencer Brown. Don't put him in the Hall of Fame just yet. Sean McDermott, Spencer Brown.
And look how that worked out. He went through some rough times, worked his butt off, a tough kid from Iowa, and look how it turned out.
Yeah.
But when you hype kids, I wonder about all this NIL money in college and the transfer portal. Some of the kids coming into the league, now their heads are too big because they got paid and they couldn't deal with adversity. They transferred 3 times. That's the whole point about Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. They're good guys, but do not hype them to the degree that Jets did early on.
Dan, it really doesn't mean much, but I'm just curious here. When the Bills were dysfunctional with Whaley and others, there were leaks in the media. I'm just curious, who do you think put it out there, got the story out there that Woody Johnson wanted to make a change at quarterback after the Denver game? Was it Douglas who was just fired? Was it Robert Salaskamp? Was it an assistant coach on the team? Do you have any insight on that?
Well, I can't go on the air and say for sure who someone's source is, but those 2 guys were in the room, and both those guys have a lot of friends in the media. some of these people in the New York media are now making Robert Saleh into Vince Lombardi. I just don't get it. I don't like anyone to get fired, but he did not do a great job as the Jets head coach. You could blame Woody to a degree in terms of meddling, but like I said, the run defense under Robert Saleh was not good. So, and the hype entering this year with Saleh as the coach about their defense was a little out of whack. So Douglas and Saleh were in the room. If you guys want to go there, you can. I have to be a little more careful than that, but they were two of the guys in that room. But I'll tell you one thing about Woody. He needs to back off. He needs to hire the right people and back off. But let me tell you something else. Rich Cimini had a story that he was the guy that benched a safety named Tony Adams. Tony Adams, someone needed to bench him. He wasn't playing well. So I give Woody credit there because I said earlier in the interview, whether it was Joe Douglas with Robert Saleh or Joe Douglas with Jeff Ulbrich, nobody from that defense was getting benched. So I give Woody needs to hire the right people and back off, but it took Woody to bench a safety who was struggling.
So lack of accountability, basically, is what you're saying. There's just no accountability with the head coach and with the GM.
No, because they would say, you know what, they just need to play their technique better. They need to use better mechanics. No, some players are not up to the challenge and need to go. Tony Adams is a backup safety core special team player. He's a good kid, plays hard, but he's not a starting safety. But it took the owner, who is not, exactly Bobby Beathard, to say, get him off the field. Why is that, guys?
Got a tweet here, Dan. Chris writing in. Mike Vrabel for the new Jets head coach. Does that fit the bill?
It would if they – see, that's the whole thing in terms of the hiring process with the next GM and the next head coach. They've got to be careful hiring the GM first, because if they can get a Vrabel type and give him the kind of power Sean Payton has in Denver, that would make sense. Now, you hire a GM, but he's not making the final call. It's like Belichick in New England, where Belichick had GMs, but Belichick made the final call. So if you want Mike Vrabel, you got to let him have all the power, and he could pick his GM.
Yeah.
It would certainly make sense.
At minimum, you follow the Buffalo Bills template. You hire the head coach who everybody was impressed with who everybody, I should say, didn't really know when he came here, but he brought in his guy. He basically handpicked Brandon Beane from Carolina, and the two of them work well together. And maybe that's the secret formula there when you're talking about hiring your next GM and your next head coach.
Right, like with Vrabel, the problem at the end for Vrabel in Tennessee was they fired John Robinson as the GM, and then they forced a GM on him, Rand Carthon, who he didn't pick, and they never got along. So if you want Mike Vrabel, you hire him first and let him pick his GM who's going to help him with the player personnel. But if you're going to get a rock star coach like Mike Vrabel, he's going to want final say on the players. As Bill Parcells once said, you got to let him shop for the groceries.
Dan Leberfeld, Jets Confidential. Dan, will you be coming to Western New York for that December 29th game? Who knows how the world looks then?
Well, I will be now. I have another reason to come aside from visiting with you guys and my friends Dave Altman and Dave Jones and Mike Catalana. I have another reason to come, Joe's Brooklyn Pizza. Wasn't aware of the establishment, but based on the promo before, they have multiple locations.
Yeah, they do, and convenient and delicious as well. And we look forward to seeing you when you come through town. Tell us about Jets Confidential, how we can get more of your work, Dan.
Well, as you know, for a quarter century, Rochester-based, Jets Confidential magazine, a must-read for Jet fans. The fans can go to jetsconfidential.com to get a subscription, or call 1-800-932-4557 to grab a subscription as well. Makes a great holiday gift, as Gene knows all too well.
Jets Whispers on X. You can follow Dan Leberfeld. Dan, it is always a treat having you on. Thank you so much for the time, buddy.
Always a pleasure to be on with Gene and Reed.
Appreciate you, Dan. Take care, buddy.
You have a good one.
That's Dan Leberfeld.
I knew that was coming.
Look, I'm numb to it now. I get it.
Folks who don't know, like Mike Danger in his profile regional brand manager. That's your title here at Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan just shortens it up. Just calls you
me
Reach.
Yeah. I don't know. Am I not supposed to put on my byline what I do for a living? Most people do that, don't they?
It seems like that's a little too inside baseball here, so to speak. You're a regional brand.
Does he not put editor Jets Whisperer?
I guess.
Maybe I should call him Ed.
Ed.
Thanks, Ed. I don't know. No, I love Leberfeld. I love that he comes on with us and gives us that insight. And, man, if there was something that he said that's going to stick with me, Rodgers is not the problem. Rodgers should come back next year to be this team's quarterback again.
But who is going to be – that's question number one. Like, who's going to be my quarterback? Okay, like, would Rodgers actually be there while we're going to draft somebody else? I mean, he had to do that, but not by his choice with Jordan Love. I think that's the only way he would do. He would be back for the Jets, almost as a bridge quarterback.
I like the idea of hiring your head coach first and letting your head coach dictate who the GM is going to be. You need somebody that will don't try to arrange a marriage. Let the head coach be the guy who says this needs to be our GM. I think the way the Bills did it, the way they did it with Bean, I mean, some people forget. Brandon Bean didn't hire Sean McDermott. It was the other way around. It was Sean McDermott saying, we need Whaley out of here. Bring in this guy.
We need, and it was Sean McDermott recruiting Brandon Bean, who was the assistant GM at Carolina. Come on up here, bud.
It was his opportunity. Yeah. They knew each other. They knew they would work well together. They were both on the same page. They've, for the most part, been on the same page the entire time they've worked together. That's what you need. That's why it's kind of surprising when you see San Francisco doing what they're doing. Like somewhere there between Lynch and Shanahan, there's some kind of hiccup. There's some kind of schism. I don't know what it is, a personality difference or a clash of ego, whatever it is. When you see them kind of struggling the way they are, okay, what's that all about? But the instance of the Bills, I mean, just follow the Bills template. If you're starting over, the Bills were as bad and dysfunctional as you could get at the end of the Rex Ryan era. I mean, Rex didn't show up the last week, right? It was like, oh, well, he's gone.
The Sean McDermott press conference, if you go back in time, it was really, I mean, I would love to go back and listen to the audio today. We're kind of like, yeah, great.
Yeah, right. We had no
idea.
Yeah. We had no idea. But it was McDermott with Bean that made things start to go. It was McDermott and Bean making the moves immediately that we're all like, oh, my God, they're tearing it down. They're trading Watkins. They're moving on from Darby. What's going on here? Like, Stephon Gilmore's not coming back. What? They're going to let go of who was Marcel Darius.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What are we doing? Everything worked out. And they had the right mentality, and they had the right partnership. That's the best thing you can hope for if you're the New York Jets.
But what was different about that team compared to this Jet team, I do think there's some young talent on this Jet team.
For sure.
And talking about how these guys are just defeated. Your Sauce Gardner, your Breece Hall, like what?
They're glazed over.
Yeah.
I mean, the person you bring in to lead that organization has to have an energy that is infectious, contagious, positive, uplifting. Things are different. I know you've been through hell. Things are different. You have to. I don't know who that guy is. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out when the offseason comes, but if it's anybody short of that, I agree with Dan. It can't be a first-timer. It can't be a guy that's going to be, I'm going to make my mark. And no. You need a name, somebody that's going to go in there and immediately change the culture and try to reclaim the stars that you have on that roster. Get them re-engaged because they have the dead eyes right now. They've been through hell. And there's a lot of talent there that's just not being used.
Secretly, I want Rex.
Of course.
Because I know it would burn bright for like 2 weeks, and then I'll fall apart again.
We've all seen that movie before. Yeah. We're going to take a break and come back. Happy Hour is next in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. That means we have plenty of time for your calls if you want to join us at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
online BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester. Sports update.
Week 12 begins tonight with the Steelers and Browns in Cleveland. Pittsburgh favored by 3.5. To hockey last night, where the Amerks and the Sabres get the win. Devin Levi and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen winning on the same night. In fact, in overtime in Laval, Amerks take this one 2-1. They're back home tomorrow night against Hershey. Saturday at 5:05 against Utica. The Sabres now at 9-1 on the season. They get the 1-0 win against the Kings. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen with a shutout.
I think that was really, really good for me personally. Coming back from missing a couple of games. I feel like the team played extremely well in front of me. They blocked shots and, made it easier for me to, have a shutout. It's a team thing usually, so I think it was a really good effort from the whole team.
Sabres at Anaheim tomorrow night. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Let's go! Mike Danger.
Yes, it's a bye week for the Buffalo Bills. Doesn't mean we can't talk Buffalo Bills. And to answer your question, Gene, yeah, I think we can be satisfied with a team that's 9-2 going into their bye in full control of the division. And at minimum, you have a pathway to the number 1 seed.
Gene Battaglia.
Bills news, looking forward, looking back. I know there would be a certain sector of Bills fans and listeners that would say this Bills team has a feel of destiny to them.
A breakaway opportunity. Here's Rusek moving in. Forehead. Scores! Lukas Rusek, the overtime game winner. Takes a shot. Scores! It may have been by Zucker, who gets one for the Buffalo Sabres, and it's a 1-0 lead.
I am baking a cake.
Happy birthday, executive producer. Nailed it.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
I feel like right off the top here at Happy Hour, we should wish a happy birthday to the executive producer, my fine co-host, better half, Julie. When is the cake being enjoyed that you manufactured?
Be enjoyed tomorrow. Like so.
But
even
your daughter,
today is the birthday, but so it's there and the tradition there.
We don't want to ruin any surprises, but you were baking a cake last night.
I was.
No assistance from anybody.
You were shocked. You shocked like I'm some sort of Neanderthal.
No.
Ooh,
I do. I thought you go home.
Idea.
Your club is waiting for you as you walk in the door. You pound it on the ground a couple of times. The executive producer comes in. You grab her by the hair. You drag her into the kitchen. And No, nothing like that. No, I just was surprised because of people that I would assume would bake a cake. You are not on that list. Never. I wish there was documentation of you baking a cake.
I'm a man of many talents, Danger. Got it. And by baking a cake, if you're thinking from scratch, no.
Well, I was hoping you would do it from scratch. Maybe it means a little bit more if you frosted it yourself. Did you do the frosting yourself?
Course, yeah. Frosting's a bitch, let me tell you.
So you frost, you're getting it out of the little container and you're just frosting it that way. So you're not even making the homemade frosting?
No.
The buttercream
No. So what you're implying is I don't get full credit for this. I'm Mike Danger. I would make Sandy cake from scratch.
I've never done it, and I don't know that I ever will. That's why I'm so shocked by it. I will cook a meal. I will make dinner. I will host holidays. I will grill. I will find recipes and emulate them. I love doing all of that. I don't bake. And I don't know what it is. I just don't bake. Even with the girls, they're into it. My mother-in-law is into it. She makes all the Italian. Of course, she makes all the cookies. She's Italian.
Well, she worked at a bakery for crying out loud.
Worked at Wegmans Bakery for years and years and years, so she knows how to make her cakes. She knows how to make her baked goods. And my daughters love it. They love and cherish that time that they spend with her, and they all know how to do it. I've just never gotten into it. And, I'll try to teach them how to cook. Like, they can cook for themselves, but I've never. Maybe I should. Maybe I should follow your lead, bake a cake, surprise Sandy with some sort of baked good.
Her birthday's coming up, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
right?
we're a couple weeks away.
So, what's the plan? Do you just go to Wegmans and buy a cake? Is that normally what you do? Or did she say, no, it's too expensive, don't buy a cake?
She's not into it. Like, she's, she and I both, we both, no. with the holidays coming up, it's like we gotta really kind of pay attention to what we're putting in, what we're ingesting here, because every day is precious, and eating all these, for her it's the Nutella, it's the Italian sweets, it's everything that her mom puts out every week when they all get together. And I'm the same way. You bring that stuff into my house, it's gonna get eaten. It's gonna get eaten. I'm sorry, and I don't need it. I do not need it. So maybe that's why I've never baked her a cake. Is like I just know she's gonna be like, well, I don't need that. I don't need you to bake me a cake. The girls used to bake me. They made me carrot cake one year for my birthday. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
And I love that. But yeah, they're into it. I'm not. And I was just kind of floored at the end of the show yesterday when I asked, what's your game plan for tonight? Because the Sabres are on after dark. Are we staying up to watch the Sabres? And your thing was, I'm baking a cake. Well, Gene Battaglia is baking a cake?
Maybe if the executive producer would let me, maybe I'll bring some cake to Three Heads tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Although, listen, we'll have pizza there tomorrow. We'll have all sorts of goodies.
That wonderful flavor combination of pizza. Wash it down with an IPA and then cake for dessert. Speaking of Three Heads, Gina, you brought it up. That's where we are tomorrow afternoon from 3 until 6. This is going to be outstanding. Another Friday Football Talk Live. Our show live on stage at Three Heads Brewing in the neighborhood of the Arts on Atlantic Avenue. What makes it special is our friends from the Rochester Nighthawks will be in attendance as well. You can hang out with your Rochester Nighthawks. We'll be talking to Tom McConvey. We'll also be talking to Ryland Reese. We'll have players there for you from 5 until 6. Freddy's ROC serving up delicious wood-fired pizza at Three Heads tomorrow as well. We already know that the Nighthawks Hazy IPA is back on tap. You can grab a pint tomorrow afternoon. You can look for it at the Blue Cross Arena for all the events this season. You can also look for it in stores and on tap tomorrow. Three Heads Brewing, Atlantic Avenue, in the neighborhood of the Arts from 3 until 6.
We can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
Fantastic. It's going to be a great time tomorrow, and hopefully everybody can join us. And you don't have to RSVP, but if you do, just hit us up on X, the Fan Rochester. We'd love to see you there. And Danger and I, this is like the rare time. Like, okay, 6 o'clock show's over. I think we might just be hanging out a little longer after the show. Yeah.
For sure. We don't have anything going on like we usually do. And for us to be able to hang out, converse, spend time with all y'all, that's really the treat for me. So the show is fun, and we'll have a great time from 3 until 6. But then afterwards, yes, we'd love to, raise a glass to the holidays and to everybody's good health, and do a couple of wins for the Buffalo Bills here during their bye week. Dan Fate's good with his time to join us earlier this afternoon. And, of course, Dan Leberfeld of Jets Confidential. We had to get Leberfeld on this week, given everything that's gone on. Just more Jets drama with the firing of their GM. Not that was a surprise, but the timing of it is suspect, and maybe it was just a matter of, all right, enough is enough. You lost to the Colts. You lost to Anthony Richardson. This is downright embarrassing. But what Leberfeld said that I think is interesting and a decent point, for as critical as we are of Aaron Rodgers, and for as much of an axe to grind as a lot of people have against Aaron Rodgers, if you watch Aaron Rodgers play, a lot of times it's not his fault. If you're a Bills fan, you remember that way that game ended, and Rodgers had no problem throwing his teammate under the bus. It wasn't his fault. The throw wasn't there, but he didn't run the right route. The Bills get the pick. The Bills get the win. For the most part, Rodgers hasn't been the issue, according to Leberfeld, and wouldn't be surprised if they brought Rodgers back next year, knowing that he's a veteran. He's somebody that gives you a better chance to win than some rookie quarterback that you end up drafting in the first round.
I don't think that is true. I'm sorry. It doesn't pass the eye test. I tried throwing some stats there. He's the 27th ranked quarterback in the league right now. And Aaron would like to he's great at deflection. He really is. But to me, he was a guy that was never bought in fully from this year from the get-go, whether it was the head coach or whatever it was. He threw for 184 yards against the Colts. So I can't believe you got outscored by Anthony Richardson, Aaron Rodgers. So, sure, you could spin it, Danger, and say, if you get a better defense and a different head coach, and Aaron Rodgers could be the guy. Really? In the AFC? Ultimately, because I thought the goal was to win the Super Bowl. You're going to get beyond Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. The goal should be find the next guy. And would Aaron Rodgers stick around one more year while that quarterback in waiting is sitting and learning? Furthermore, I don't want a quarterback sitting and learning from Aaron Rodgers. Anybody remember how that went with Zach Wilson? Didn't go so well.
Oh, you mean
or Jordan Love?
Yeah, he wasn't going to be the guy that mentored Jordan Love. Jordan Love kind of had to learn on the fly and learn on his own. Great conversations with both men, with both Dan Fates and with Dan Leberfeld. The Dans were awesome today in the Sports Bar, and you can catch those wherever you get your podcasts. That includes the free-to-download Odyssey app. Search out the Sports Bar, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Hey, we also appreciate you watching the stream right now. We're up and rolling on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, streaming on Twitch and on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan.
Kyle Shanahan, I didn't expect he would be this coach on the hot seat, but I like all this chatter here, and I guess when you have a team that's coming off a Super Bowl appearance and the team is 5-5, and you look at all the talent on this team, is there something to this? Because sure, it's going to be a short week for us next week with the holiday and everything else, and we're going to be paying attention to the 49ers. We all get to watch the 49ers on Sunday if we choose. They're taking on the Packers, but I never thought that this could be the team, and Dan Fates said this. Could the 49ers be this year's version of the Eagles, where the Eagles had all this talent, and they just fell completely apart last year in a spectacular way? Could the Niners be going down that path?
Bad vibes, for sure. There have been bad vibes around the team dating back to the preseason. I don't think there's anything to him being on the hot seat. And the test I always like to throw out when we talk about coaches who are on the hot seat is, if that coach were to be let go, would other teams line up to hire him? The answer with Shanahan is an easy yes. There would be teams lining up to hire him. When Mike McCarthy is let go, will other teams be lining up to hire Mike McCarthy? The answer is no. Matt Eberflus, no. Robert Saleh, no. Now, Mike Vrabel will be a hot head coaching candidate again this cycle. He's spent the year in Cleveland, and his name will pop up. But if you're going to move on from a guy who will immediately get picked up, when Andy Reid was let go by Philadelphia, I think everybody's like, where's he going now? And it didn't take long for him to find a new home in Kansas City. The rest is history. So be careful what you wish for when you want to put your head coach on the hot seat, because chances are another team is going to scoop him up, and he'll probably have more success with that second team than he does with his first.
It's a mailbag issue in the New York Times /Athletic where the topic is danger has Kyle Shanahan lost the locker room. And, you know, the writer kind of answers it in a way that says no, but I can't imagine, like, on another team, like, say, Buffalo, for instance, that Tyler Bass is going to have another bad game, that somebody on the Bills is going to come over and slap Tyler Bass in the head and then challenge the long snapper.
The vibes are bad.
Yeah.
The vibes are bad. I don't know exactly what it stems from. Maybe it stems from the Ayuk holdout and the Trent Williams holdout. Maybe it stems from Brock Purdy. Maybe it stems from McCaffrey being gone, and who can say, really? Debo could be the issue, but the vibes are not great with the Niners. Maybe they change if they get the win against the Packers. I think they could beat the Packers on Sunday, and if they do beat the Packers on Sunday, then it makes the matchup a week from Sunday even more enticing between the Bills and the Niners.
Who wins that division?
The West?
Yeah. I'll tell you.
I think it's the Cardinals.
The Cardinals play only one team with a winning record down the stretch, and that team is Minnesota.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think it's the Cardinals. It's crazy to think that based on what we saw week one. I mean, hey, the first half, week one against the Bills, the Cardinals kind of had their way, right? And the slow start was obvious. They got away from what was working, and you didn't really have anything going on with Marvin Harrison Jr. Kyler Murray's not playing bad football. For as much as we want to bag on Kyler Murray, he hasn't been playing bad football. And they've got something going, and maybe this is their year to win that division. I'm not impressed by Seattle. And the Rams and Niners can certainly challenge, but I worry about Stafford overall. Like, taking the pounding that he takes. Good quarterback, but man, is he going to hold up through the course of the season? Does he get tired as the season continues to wear on? Because he's got weapons. There's talent on that roster as well. But yeah, right now it feels like the Cardinals, doesn't it?
Yeah, for San Francisco, I could easily see them. You think that they're going to go up in Green Bay. I'm not so sure, Danger. Brock Purdy, by the way, this week is limited in practice with a shoulder injury, so that's never a good thing. But Tasker brought up this point yesterday on One Bills Live. Why is it that we always kind of, oh my gosh, how do the Bills match up against Seattle? We're worried about this. How do we? It should be the other way around here. And in the case of San Francisco, how are we going to deal with the Buffalo Bills in this regard? I don't know if San Francisco, even with McCaffrey, can take advantage of the Bills' perceived weakness.
You just beat the Chiefs, the team that beat the Niners in the Super Bowl. You should beat the Niners. The Niners should be very aware of what they're coming into on that Sunday night against the Buffalo Bills, a team that just beat the team that they couldn't get over. So,
do you think Sean McDermott invites his coaching staff over and gets some pizzas and be like, hey, let's watch together here, Niners and Packers? Or is he telling everybody to leave? I don't know. Do coaches actually watch like we would watch, or are they just watching game film?
I don't know. You know what? On the bye week, maybe they're getting together and watching games, scouting, looking at other teams, watching the TV like we do. That would be, that would humanize them a little bit, because I just feel like during the NFL season, they are just robotic. They are products of their routine, and that is it. It is discipline every single day to do what they need to do every single day, minute by minute by minute. So during the bye week, do they allow themselves to unplug and be regular? I don't know. Can you imagine Sean McDermott just kicking back on his couch, feet up on the ottoman, flipping through games, watching? It's a hard thing for me to image.
I can't even imagine him with a beer.
Right.
Andy Reid, sure.
Right.
Belichick, we've seen photos. Like McDermott, I can't picture that.
Yeah. What a scene. What an absolute scene. Another scene. What's going on with the Giants? This is a story from today, and look, Jones getting benched earlier this week, not a surprise, especially when you consider it's Tommy DeVito that's going to be starting, because he's Italian!
Well, not only that, but you want to kind of move on from Jones, right? If you're the Giants and you don't want that contract to kick in next year with the injury guarantee, the season's over for the Giants. Does Shane stay around? I don't know if he gets to pick a second head coach. And I don't know if this is coming from above. I don't know if the quarterback said, yes, I'd like to help out any way I can to have this. I highly doubt that. If Brian Daboll made his quarterback do this today, shame on you, Brian.
The reports out of Giants practice today had Jones wearing the Red Scout team jersey, lining up at safety during the offensive install period. So Jones, now you're just embarrassing the guy. And what did he do? If he did something to Brian Daboll, what was it that made Brian Daboll say, you know what, not only am I going to bench you, I'm going to belittle you. I'm going to absolutely disrespect you. Daboll's gone. He's gone. Which sucks, because we all like Brian Daboll from his time here, but it's another case of, well, maybe he was just better suited as a coordinator and not as the head coach.
What's a better job? Starting from scratch with the Giants, or a team across the hallway that has some talent, but man, the answer is clear here. It's the Giants. As long as Woody Johnson is there calling the shots, do you agree with me that the Giants' job, when that becomes available, is better than the Jets' job?
Well, the other part that we don't know about the Giants, or that it gets hidden a little bit more than the Jets does, is how involved with them is the Mara family. Are they really involved? I mean, wasn't there a report around the Saquon release where they're like, oh, well, Saquon, we want to sign Saquon, we can't sign Saquon, or the ownership wanted Saquon?
No, that's from
Hard Knocks?
That's from the Hard Knocks, where the owner tells Shane, like Shane is like, well, we think Chicago's in play. We think I would really be upset. I forget the way he phrased, but that was the message. I really don't want him going to Philadelphia.
Oops.
Ooh.
I'm telling you, Gino, Hard Knocks is great. We have this unprecedented access, albeit edited down for TV, and they do their best to make it so that they're not making somebody look bad. But off-season Hard Knocks made the Giants look really, really, really bad.
We asked Brandon Beane about that. Do you remember? Like, because that's his guy, Shane. And look, he's not going to, like, if Mr. P says you're going to do this or the league says you're going to do, he'll have to do it. None of them want to do this.
Right.
The Giants kind of in their way put up their hand. All right, let's get it out of the way. Oh, no. I don't know about you. I don't think I would want a camera following me around at all points.
That'd be a challenge.
Yeah.
And inevitably you're going to say something that is off color or doesn't gel, or something is going to get captured. And the way that organization was portrayed in the offseason, boy, it just made me think that this was the season that was inevitable for the New York Giants, that they were going to struggle this year. And struggle they have. But Brian Daboll, I want to give him more credit than this, but if this is your decision to not just bench Daniel Jones, put him in the fourth string, and it probably isn't Daboll's decision, it's probably coming from above. It's a business decision. We don't want him to get hurt. Putting him at safety, come on.
Hey, Thursday Night Football hasn't been bad this year. I mean, part of it is they kind of know what to give us. That game a couple weeks ago with the Ravens and
Fantastic.
the Bengals was interesting. Hey, the Eagles and Commanders. And now we're going to get another divisional game tonight. And granted, Cleveland's down in the dumps, but it's Cleveland and Pittsburgh and the home underdog on a Thursday night. I know it looks tempting. Take Cleveland in the points. I can't do it.
I'm doing it, man.
No.
I am doing it, and here's why. The Cleveland Browns are fun. They don't have anything to worry about here. Like, they can just go out and ball. Jameis can be Jameis. Nick Chubb can be Nick Chubb. The Myles Garrett can be Myles Garrett. Like, this always feels like the kind of game that the Steelers played down. It's a divisional game. It's in Cleveland. I'm not saying the Browns are winning, and if the elements are in play, I'm imagining a low-scoring game here. But give me the Browns plus 3.5. If you tell me that's a trap and the Steelers roll them, then fine, the Steelers roll them. But Stefanski's a good head coach, and at minimum, Jameis is fun.
The Steelers will have extended their winning streak to 6, I believe, by the time we're back on the air tomorrow. They will pull even with Buffalo in terms of the record. We don't even, the chase for Kansas City. We don't even consider Pittsburgh because, well, look at their schedule, all these divisional opponents. I'm telling you one thing. Steelers are a playoff team. I think we can kind of nod. Maybe they win the division, maybe they don't. But if Russell Wilson continues to play, it's almost like he got that opportunity he needed. Like, what he's doing right now is almost kind of like a game manager. Granted, he threw one really dumb ball, okay, but maybe the Steelers are so good at covering up their mistakes, but you got to give them credit that they're winning 5 in a row.
He's revitalized George Pickens. I mean, the deep shots to Pickens have been fantastic. And, I mean, for all of the years that Tomlin has been coach, you could argue this has been his best coaching job of his career. Going into the season with not knowing who your quarterback is going to be, with these two options and two quarterbacks that are low risk, high reward. Great job. I still think tonight they played down to the level of their competition. The Browns keep it close. So give me the Browns plus that 3.5.
Boy, I would think I would love to see Tomlin as the NFL Coach of the Year, perhaps. McDermott, if they go 13. But that's not the way it's going to go. Right now, the betting favorite. Now, I'd have to look this up here. But Dan Quinn was right up there.
I want to say that Tomlin is up there as a betting favorite for Coach of the Year because of the job that he's done. And it is. It's impressive. I mean, I think a lot of people were scratching their head when he made the switch from Fields to Russell Wilson. I think he did it maybe a week or two too late.
Yep. So now Tomlin is the favorite at plus 225. Dan Campbell at plus 350. Kevin O'Connell has slipped to plus 400. Jim Harbaugh at plus 450.
Well, the Chargers keep winning. Harbaugh's number is going to get smaller and smaller.
But it's funny. It's like you're not even nowhere near here. The top is Andy Reid or Sean McDermott.
Right. It's all based on expectation.
Yeah.
Let's get to a round of shots next on The Fan.
Yeah, as we do have some baseball news here, a hot stove, if you will. We have a good night for our hockey teams as we kind of look ahead to the weekend as well. What do you do if you get a rare piece of memorabilia? Well, we'll tell you what is happening in Los Angeles. And some audio from Adam Schefter, unlike anything. I really wish he didn't go down this path. Actually.
All right. We'll dive into all of that. A round of shots next on The Fan.
update.
It's a divisional matchup that began Week 12. Steelers and Browns in Cleveland. Pittsburgh is favored by 3.5. Mike Tomlin knows this is a tough one.
Obviously, this next outing is a really significant one. When you have back-to-back division games, it is significant, but also to have back-to-back division games and the second one be on a short week on the road, man, that has our attention and urgency.
Hockey this weekend for the Amerks are back on Friday and Saturday. They get the win in Laval in overtime. The Sabres at 9-1 on the season. Buffalo winning 1-0 against the LA Kings. They're in Anaheim tomorrow night. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com, where today you get half off a certificate to Joe's Brooklyn Pizza with 4 area locations. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com today. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Bone-crunching hits, backboard-shattering dunks, bat flips, and hat tricks. 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Back in the sports bar, it's time for a round of shots.
How about this? 2 teams winning on the road, Amerks and Sabres. The 2 goalies winning on the road. Devin Levi is from Quebec, and he, in his first game with the Amerks this season, stopping 26 of 27. Lucas Rushak with the game winner. Amerks back home tomorrow night against the hated Hershey Bears at 7 o'clock. Utica still hasn't won this year. The Comets coming to the town Saturday at 5:05. Meanwhile, Buffalo winning 1-0 in L.A. Jason Zucker with a power play goal. That was goal number 200 in his career. UPL with 23 saves, getting the shutout. Buffalo has scored a power play goal now in 10 of the last 17, including the last 7 games in a row. Another late night, of course, 10 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night for the game in Anaheim.
Darlene's got a good streak going as well. The shutout for UPL. I had some guilt waking up this morning knowing that I fell asleep during the Sabres game, but then I saw the score and I'm like, oh, yeah, there's probably no way I would have been able to keep myself up for the entirety of that game to stay up just to see 1-0. Would have been killer. But yeah, big win for the Sabres, and let's just end the season now. The Sabres are in a playoff position. We can end the drought if the season concluded right now.
Who's closer to anything to drought, the Sabres or the Jets? It's the Sabres.
For sure.
For sure, yeah. Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred spoke to his in-house people at MLB.com. Of course, it's very very courageous.
Who's the guy that the butt kicks that was
Smithers?
Yeah. 2020. He's in the background that guy.
Yes, thank you.
Is he part of his
Thank you. Thank you. Rob Manfred is Mr. Burns.
Yeah.
2020.
Who's the guy that's in the? Was he part of this decision?
2020 is going to be remembered.
One guy clapping.
Totally didn't see it.
There's the guy.
Thank you. 2020 is going to be remembered as a baseball season like no other. Our clubs, and especially our players, were presented with an array of unique challenges.
Absolutely getting eviscerated. But was that even a full crowd? That was a full crowd, right? For the World Series?
No.
That was not a full crowd?
That was not a full crowd. It was like
in Texas.
It was half capacity, but it was in Dallas cheering the Dodgers win over the Rays. But everybody that stuck around, like, okay, let's let this guy have it.
Well
Fantastic. Rob Manfred speaking to his in-house people, addressing the threat of the Tampa Bay Rays relocating, and his quote, kind of predictable. We're committed to the fans in Tampa Bay. Oh, excuse me. I got to do this in a Rob Manfred voice. We're committed to the fans in Tampa Bay. I think all that's happened in the market, we're focused to the franchise in Tampa Bay right now.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. What was he supposed to say? Yeah. Tough luck, guys.
How about this? I'll fix it. We're focused on Tampa Bay. Focused on Tampa Bay right now.
Right now is the tell.
Yeah.
Next month at this time, check in with me. We might not be focused on them anymore. We'll
Yeah.
be focused on getting money from another market who's interested in having a Major League Baseball franchise.
That's correct. So December 17th, that is the vote that's needed to pass the bonds for the new stadium, much less what are they doing with the other stadium that had the roof torn off. if that doesn't happen on December 17th, then it's basically franchise free agency, the way I kind of see it. The speculation is going to go nuts here. Everybody lining up here. Baseball's award season concludes tonight, and there shouldn't be much suspense. Who are the MVPs? Ooh, it's going to be Aaron Judge of the Yankees and Shohei Ohtani, the heavy favorites here. Chris Sale of the Braves and Drake Skubal of the Tigers, the Cy Young Award winners.
Okay.
Zachary Rutterman, who is he? He's 10 years old. He ended up with the Freddie Freeman Grand Slam ball. Good for him. His family made the decision. They're going to put it up for auction. Life-changing money is expected here, considering that Shohei Ohtani's 50th home run, that ball went for $4.4 million. The Freeman ball is going to expect it to be much more than that. Wow.
Well, listen, man, good for the kid. If you don't want to hold on to it and you want to cash that check now, I have no problem with that. That's life-changing money. Exactly what you said is life-changing money, and I mean, right place, right time. Good for him.
The NBA announcing a complete format change to the All-Star Game. Danger, are you into this? So this is according to Shams Charania at ESPN. Now, we can kind of agree. All-Star Games have become Pro Bowl, no thanks.
I can't tell you the last time I've watched a pro sports All-Star game.
I watched the Major League Baseball All-Star Game when Skeens came out last year. Wanted to see how that would kind of play out.
I think I watched that inning, a couple innings.
Okay, so that maybe baseball, but still, and it's only because that's the time of year. What are you competing with? The new format is going to be this: 4 8-man teams, 2 semifinals, 1 final. First game, first team to 40 wins and moves on. The championship game, first team to 25 moves on. 3 teams, Team A, Team B, Team C, and then the last team is going to be the winner of the Rising Stars game for whatever.
I'm already confused. None of this makes sense. So it's a tournament of 4 teams.
4 teams.
With 8 players, but one of those 4 teams is the Rising Stars team?
Correct.
Okay.
So Rising Star is one of the team. 2 semifinals, first team to get the 40, almost like the Elam ending there in the other bracket of the basketball tournament.
It sounds like they're trying to play less basketball in this. Are they playing less basketball in this?
The way they're framing this, it's going to feel more like a pickup game.
Okay. I actually don't mind that element of it. But is it all within the same day? It's all, so it's not like one part of the tournament is one day?
Kind of like how the NHL does it now with the 4 different conferences. So like it's going to be 3 games basically. Semifinal. Here's your championship.
Well, I like the element of it looking and feeling like a pickup game, but I probably won't indulge.
No.
Just probably. I mean, unless LeBron is active, because I just want to be able to appreciate him while we still have him.
You will appreciate me, Mike.
I'm sorry, you're right. I will appreciate him.
You can't.
He will be. He will be an all-star. I will appreciate him. So yeah, maybe I'll have to watch because I will appreciate LeBron.
So being an NFL insider, or any insider, it's got to be tough, right? It's constant. We saw like Woj get burned out. He's on St. Bonaventure now, right? Adam Schefter went on Kevin Clark's This Is Football podcast and was asked a simple question: what is the weirdest spot he's ever broken a story from?
I can remember being in Denver one time, and I was how do I say this? I had just spent time with this woman for the first time.
Yeah. Okay.
And
sure.
And got a text that Dale Carter was being suspended. I think it was for 8 games for substance abuse. And so as I continue to lay there, confirm it, and got the job done, Kevin, in every which way.
I'm just staring straight at the camera, buddy. I'm just not. That's it. That's it. This is the greatest episode we've ever had.
It's a weird flex. Okay, congratulations, Adam. You have sex. You got laid. Kind of a weird flex. Like we all kind of assume you're Adam Schefter. Yeah, you probably. I don't know what his personal life is. Does he have a person? Does he have a wife, kids? What does he have?
No, he married the widow of a 9/11 victim. Okay, and he wrote that book about the man I never met. So like, how does I don't know. I wouldn't have gone there. But the beginning of that, he's hemming and hawing like he knows the answer to this. And it's like, should I go there? He's laughing like.
He had to go there because he remembers it so vividly. It was such an important moment for him. He even remembered the story. I don't even know the player that he was talking about. I don't remember that story, the player who got suspended 6 games for whatever. Like,
you're in that moment of ecstasy, like, oh, wait, you're doing what? What are you doing?
Disrespectful. Completely disrespectful. Adam Schefter, selfish a-hole. You're experiencing the pleasures of a woman and you can't put the phone down and break news? Just wait 30 seconds like the rest of us and then do it afterwards, dude.
I think that's what he was saying. Yeah, it was like, I was just laying there.
Yeah.
And, want everybody, let everybody know.
Selfish a-hole. Adam Schefter. Selfish lover. Nobody wants to sign up to be with that guy. Well, he went there, so.
Where else do you get sports talk like this, folks?
Nowhere
else.
In fact, Phil, one of our regulars on X, just reached out and shared his desire. He's ready, and a lot of us are ready, for the annual Thanksgiving Power Rankings.
Stuffing better be at the top. No disrespect to butter. I don't want to.
All right.
Does Gewürzimer?
Let's run down last year's top 5.
All right.
Bourbon was number 5 last year. Stuffing was number 4. Butter, 3. Gravy, 2. Smoked turkey, 1.
Okay. Turkey at 1, yes. Bourbon, get out of here with that because that's not for you. Yes, for the public.
I'm telling you, if you don't get with the program, if you don't do bourbon on Thanksgiving, get with the program. That's all I'm going to say. There's nothing better after having an unbelievable Thanksgiving meal than kicking back with a bourbon. It's fantastic. It has to be a part of your tradition. Has to be. In fact, I'll go as far as to say I'd be shocked if bourbon doesn't have some upward momentum in this year's rankings. I would be shocked.
Oh, no. Then fraudulent. Bourbon, not even in the top 10.
I mean, Phil is excited to hear my power rankings, Gene. I don't know why you're disputing my power rankings for Thanksgiving.
Power rankings are nothing more than a take to be debated. Well, yeah, that's all it is.
All right. Well, if we're going to debate, you're out on bourbon. I'm telling you, bourbon, if you don't know about bourbon on Thanksgiving, having a nice bourbon after the meal. I just say get with the program. That's all I can say. Soon, Phil. Next week. We're abbreviated next week. Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday. So let's make a date for Monday. Let's do it on Monday because Tuesday's short.
Yeah, like Monday would be perfect because normally Monday is victory. We're still playing the music on Monday, buddy. The Bills didn't lose.
Yeah,
it's the holiday week.
It is a victory Monday.
Yeah, victory Monday.
They didn't lose, so we win. We'll unveil the 2024 Thanksgiving Power Rankings on Monday, Phil.
Perino. I thought, what did he say? Like, he said this was weird in his explanation.
He thought you were just selling it a little bit strong, I think. Yeah. Like, I don't know what Gino's talking about with this, and I'm not really into it. What are we doing here, guys? But everybody, I think he can get down with it. His last name ends in a vowel. Of course he can get down with it. That's what we do on Victory Monday. We celebrate with the sounds of Bruno Martino, a little Italian music, a little Italian classical music here on The Fan. Tomorrow on the show, mentioned it throughout the course of the afternoon, we're extending an invite to you. Let's kick off that holiday season. Because let's face it, next week is kind of a wash. Everybody's going to be in Thanksgiving and Christmas mode. Let's go ahead and kick it off tomorrow afternoon from 3 until 6. We will be at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue in the neighborhood of the arts. It's another Friday Football Talk Live and a special Friday Football Talk Live. It's a bye week. We will still talk football, but we will also have with us the Rochester Nighthawks.
Yeah, we're going to have Thomas McConvey, also Rylan Reese joining us, and there's going to be other Nighthawks there too. So if you're a Nighthawk fan, just come on out and have a cold one with the guys. I'm sure they would love to meet you, and who knows, maybe take a selfie, do whatever you want to do there. We will also be talking to our friend Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy, joining us at about 3:30-ish tomorrow by phone, as we will try to optimize your fantasy lineups here for Week 12.
Yeah, and the Nighthawks Hazy IPA is back on tap as well. So grab a pint tomorrow afternoon with us from 3 Heads, 3 until 6. Hang out with the Rochester Nighthawks and look for that Nighthawk Hazy IPA at Blue Cross Arena events, in store, on tap. It's fantastic. That's tomorrow. Oh, and Freddie's Rock serving up the delicious wood-fired pizza as well. So we'll have food taken care of at 3 Heads Brewing for Friday Football Talk Live, a sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. We'll look forward to seeing you there. And as our friend Brett likes to say,
we can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
If you missed Dan Leberfeld or Dan Fates from this afternoon, find it wherever you get your podcasts. Search the Sports Bar in the free-to-download Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. See you at 3 Heads tomorrow afternoon, starting at 3 o'clock for Friday Football Talk Live. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan Rochester. Have a great night.